This is Ken Squire. Time now for MRN.com's Throwback Thursday. Classic NASCAR races from the Motor Racing Network's Race Archives.
From Nashville International Raceway in Nashville, Tennessee, this is MRN, the Motor Racing Network, with coverage of the Busch 420 NASCAR Winston Cup Series race. Co-hosts for tonight's Busch 420 broadcast are Mike Joy and Barney Hall.
Well, good evening, everyone, from Nashville, Tennessee and the Nashville International Raceway. Tonight, the 17th race of the Winston Cup season in 1982 will unfold here on this half-mile speedway, and it should be a good one. The field, one of the strongest we've had here in a number of years, and I don't think we'll see any domination like we saw in May when Darrell Waltrip led every lap here but one. A lot of things at stake here tonight. The race could be very critical for a lot of the racing teams. Bobby Allison has moved into the Winston Cup points lead for the second time this year, and he fully intends to stay out front if there's any way for his team to do it and win the national championship. Darrell Waltrip, on the other hand, will be trying to turn his Mountain Dew team around. They've been in a slump. Their last win came here in May when we were here at Nashville at that time. And Terry Labonte's Texas Jeans team needs to get cranked up again. After being one of the most consistent finishers all year long, the last 3 or 4 races, they've had more than their share of problems. And for many of the teams that are here tonight, they just need a win, period. Richard Petty's STP team and Buddy Baker with his new team and Dale Earnhardt and Harry Gant and Morgan Shepherd and Bill Elliott, Mike Joy, all those guys have really been scrambling for a win and they need one.
And at this track, Barney, the competition for Busch pole qualifying was so close. Morgan Shepherd won the Busch pole with a speed of 103.959 miles per hour. But in the middle of the pack, from 6th to 16th fastest times were separated by only about 1/10 of a second, and that's hardly noticeable as you watch these cars go around the racetrack. In fact, 2 drivers posted identical qualifying times for this show, so it is bound to be a close one, and I don't think we're going to expect the kind of race we saw here in May when Darrell Waltrip just ran away from the field.
Well, none of the teams think anybody will get it dialed in tonight and run away like he did in that one. Of course, you never know. In Winston Cup and NASCAR racing, anything can happen, but it should be one of the better short track races of the season here tonight at Nashville. We'll get to the starting lineup in just a moment.
From Nashville International Raceway, this is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
The Daytona 500. It's the race that defines legends, and as the world's only motorsports stadium, Daytona International Speedway is the place that redefines what a race can be. You can experience it all and witness the next career-defining NASCAR moment at the Great American Race. But hurry, the 2016 race sold out, so don't miss out in 2017. The Daytona 500, Sunday, February 26th. Guarantee your seats at 1-800-PIT-SHOP or Daytona500.com.
At Nashville International Raceway, quickly let's get into the starting lineup. Back in row 14, James Hilton of Inman, South Carolina, the Palatine Auto Parts Pontiac, and J.D. McDuffie of Sanford in the Mac Stores Pontiac. 26th position, Lenny Pont of Chester, Virginia, the Gordon Racing Buick. 25th starter is Darrell Sage of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. 24th starter, Buddy Arrington of Martinsville, Virginia, in the Jim Hill Racing Dodge, and Lake Speed of Jackson, Michigan, in the Yazoo Moores Racing Buick. In the 11th row, 22nd position, Slick Johnson, Florence, South Carolina, the Johnson Racing Buick, and D.K. Eldrick of Harrisburg, North Carolina, in the Eldrick Racing Buick.
In row number 10, Tommy Gale and Jimmy Means. In the 9th row, Kyle Petty with Dave Marcus. In row number 8, Ricky Rudd, the fastest second-day qualifier, with Richard Petty. The 7th row is Jody Ridley and Dale Earnhardt. In row number 6, Bobby Allison and Jeff Bodine. Then in the front 5 rows, the first-day qualifiers, Bill Elliott and Terry Labonte in row 5. In the 4th row, Harry Gant with Mark Martin. In row number 3, Joe Ruttman and Ron Bouchard. In the 2nd row, Tim Richmond and Darrell Waltrip. And up front, Buddy Baker and the J.D. Stacy Pontiac outside of Morgan Shepherd, the Busch pole position winner with a speed of 103.959 miles per hour.
They're going to waste no time in getting this one underway. The field over in turn number 3 getting ready for a start, and the Busch 420 will be under green here in just a moment. Dave Despain will cover the action off turns 2 and going into 3. Ned Jarrett will cover the action down on pit road. Pace car getting ready to move onto pit road at this time, and we're about set to go green in the Busch 420 here at Nashville, Tennessee. Capacity crowd looks to be on hand tonight, and they should see a good one. As they come down to the line, Morgan Shepherd and Buddy Baker door to door, and the green flag waves, and we go racing here at Nashville. Shepherd gets the inside groove, hauls it off into turn 1.
Boy, Morgan came to race. Morgan Shepherd quickly jumping out to a 2-car length lead. Waltrip scoots around Buddy Baker, takes over second. Tim Richmond side by side with Ron Bouchard for 4th. Mark Martin rides 5th with Joe Ruttman.
They'll string it out the first time around, and Shepard will lead the first lap of the Busch 420 as he brings them down to the line. Waltrip second, Baker third, fourth right now, Richmond fifth, Ron Bouchard sixth. Is Joe Ruttman. They're back in turn one.
Shepard, who won the pole for the first time this year, looks like he came to race for sure. Nobody told him it was going to be easy, but he's making it look that way as he builds a 3-car length lead over Waltrip going down the backstretch.
Shepard cuts it down low in turn 3, drifts it high off the 4th corner, single file back through the first 9 positions. Then Harry Gant tucks in line just ahead of Jeff Bodine as Bill Elliott fights with Bobby Allison. That's back in 11th position.
That's a pretty good battle right now. Allison is down on the low side of the racetrack, but he's boxed in by Bodine. He's got Richard Petty 2 spots behind him. A lot of the old dogs of NASCAR way back in the pack tonight.
Single file now back through about the 8th or 9th position as they work off the number 4 corner. Back to the line. Shepard still in front. Waltrip rides second. Baker is third. And don't be surprised if Baker puts on a good run here tonight. He's won at this racetrack before. He hasn't been here in 3 years. 1979, the last time Baker was on the track. They're back in 3.
That lead trio has opened up a good separation now over Tim Richmond. Perhaps 10 car lengths back to the 4th place man as Shepard, Waltrip, and Baker work off turn 4.
Front 3 have broken away by about 10 car lengths. Back to 4th spot. Tim Richmond having a battle right now with Ron Bouchard as they work off into turn number 1. Ruttman tries to catch him for that 5th position.
Beauty of Saturday night short track, and boy, you can get in there and mix it up. Allison is still doorpost to doorpost with Bill Elliott, and they've run that way for about 4 laps now as Allison tries to find an inside line around Nashville.
In that race for the 4th spot, Tim Richmond not as strong as Bouchard going into the corner, but he's getting off the turn very well. They stay single file to that 4th and 5th place battle. Richmond, Bouchard, then it's Joe Ruttman, Mark Martin, Terry Labonte, and Harry Gant.
Well, you couldn't pile that lead trio any tighter. Right under Shepard's deck is the 11 car of Darrell Waltrip as Darrell tried to make a move there. Looked like he was going to go underneath, but there wasn't room. If anybody knows his way around Nashville, it is the Darrell Waltrip automobile. Buddy Baker, very impressive here as he knows that he has not lost the short track touch.
Dale Earnhardt trying to move up through the field, having a little problem in his Wrangler Ford. And Ned, the key here tonight is certainly going to be handling on this short track.
It always is, Barney. As the race goes on, the track will get slicker and the handling qualities of the car will become more important. There's Waltrip trying to make a move.
Waltrip took a look down on the inside, pulled up there for a second. He's still there. He's not backing out of the throttle.
He's wedged himself inside the left rear quarter of Morgan Shepard. It looks like Waltrip wants to make the move. Let's see how the car's working on the low side as they hit turn 3.
Waltrip down on the inside groove, quick way around the racetrack. If the car will stick, he may get a shot at taking the lead as they come across the line. Shepard just out horsepowers him and leads him back into the number 1 corner, makes him tuck back in single file.
Well, Morgan knows a fair bit about setting up a car for a short track, and he's got that number 98 machine dialed in very well as he stands the gap here of the former track champion Darrell Waltrip and holds the lead in turn 3 and 4.
But Barney, you were talking about the handling qualities of the car as Waltrip tries him again as he come off of turn 4. He set his car up here in May so he'd work down on the inside of the racetrack, and right now he's down on the inside of Shepard. If he can keep it down there all night, he'll be tough to beat.
He's got a run at him this time. Waltrip is alongside the leader, but again, Shepard powers off the outside and hangs on. Buddy Baker right there with the best seat in the house for this show.
Hometown favorite Darrell Waltrip trying to get into the lead, and the fans are cheering him on here tonight at Nashville, Tennessee. But Morgan Shepard is making him work for every inch on that speedway, and again, he shuts the door on him down in turn 1. But Waltrip is still there.
Waltrip's determined to make that low line work each time now through 1 and 2. He's coming up the inside. He's getting alongside Shepard, but he can't get the dig off the corner. He's got to turn it just a little bit tighter coming onto the backstretch, and he hasn't been able to make it work yet.
As that happens, Bouchard goes underneath Richmond for 4th, and for 6th, Labonte gets underneath Mark Martin to the outside groove. Shepard has a good jump off that corner. Waltrip can't do anything with him on the bottom of the racetrack.
There is a heck of a race going on for the lead right now. A super good battle going on for 5th spot. And from 6th, 7th, 8th through 10th back, they've really been knocking some sheet metal here at Nashville. Right now, Waltrip continues to work on Morgan Shepard. And Shepard again has shut him down every time he's got up alongside. He's pushed him back in behind. He's at it again over in turn number 2.
This is the pattern. Waltrip down low, Shepard up high. Shepard's making it work in that race for 5th, Barney. There's a little paint swapping the last lap by. Bouchard came inside Tim Richmond, and they scuffed metal a little bit as they came off turn 2. Bouchard had the inside line, made the pass, and he's now got about 3 car lengths on Richmond, who's back in 5th after they swapped a little paint.
Good scramble all the way back through the pack. Waltrip came across the line that time about 4 inches short of leading a lap, and they go door to door again, and he is determined to get the lead as they head back for 3.
He's about 4 inches behind Morgan Shepherd as they hit turn 3, and now as Waltrip comes back up the inside, he may lead his first lap tonight.
Here's the best shot he's had at it as they come to the stripe. It will be Waltrip by half a car length. But going to turn 1, up in that high groove, Morgan Shepherd pulls back alongside as they go for the backstretch.
They're going to stay that way for a while if the pass pattern will prevail here. Now Waltrip scoots inside. Maybe he can get clean in front. Nope, Shepherd comes right back around the outside, and they're still side by side.
They keep racing exactly like it's the last lap, and they're going to get the checkered flag. Waltrip will again lead a lap as he pulls Shepherd across, and for the moment, Morgan seems content to just ride there for the time being. As they head back into turn number 2, it is Waltrip in front. Morgan Shepherd rides second. Buddy Baker is right there. He hasn't had a piece of the action, but he's been less than a half a car length or a full car length back in that third spot.
Meanwhile, Terry Labonte has broken the pack from 6th spot, and he's pulling away from Harry Gant. He's now set his sights on Tim Richmond, the 5th place man, and Buddy Baker's going to try Morgan as they go to turn 1.
Dale Earnhardt almost gets a piece of the wall up in turn 4. His Budmore Thunderbird will not handle down at the bottom of the racetrack, and he's been skating it all up and down the track. Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip opens up a lead, and Buddy Baker gets underneath Morgan Shepherd to take away the second spot. And I asked Baker earlier if he would try to keep the car right up front here like he does on the super speedways.
Well, if you're going to run with Darrell Waltrip, you got to run all night. In the past, he dominated the race from start to finish, and I think if we can, I'd like to keep a little heat on him, and or maybe even lead if I possibly can, because I think then you run your race and not Darrell Waltrip's race. But nevertheless, Terry Labonte and Earnhardt and Bobby Allison, so many other people are running just as well. So it's not just to catch Waltrip night, I don't think.
No, I don't think so, but Barney, he's keeping the heat on.
Buddy Baker's running a super good race here at Nashville. As we said, he hasn't been here since 1979, and we would think he'd be a little bit rusty, but he's put in every lap he could in practice, and this is a tough little racetrack to get around for anybody. Right now, it's Darrell Waltrip out front. Riding along in the second spot is Buddy Baker. The third position belongs to Morgan Shepherd. Fourth is Ron Bouchard having a good run. Fifth is Tim Richmond. Battle for sixth position a moment ago was going on between Harry Gant and Terry Labonte. Labonte has taken that now. Back to seventh is Gant. Eighth is Earnhardt. Riding in ninth is Bobby Allison. 10th is Jeff Bodine. 11th is Bill Elliott. And in 12th position right now is Jody Ridley. Then comes Joe Ruttman and Richard Petty back there. They've been having a pretty good scramble with young Mark Martin trying to split that pair up as they work back into turn 1.
Ron Bouchard now the man of the moment as he has moved up to challenge Morgan Shepherd for third spot. And Bouchard has really put on a run here since he got around Tim Richmond. He reeled in the pole sitter very effectively, and he's looking for a pass as he goes to turn 1.
Down here at the other end of the speedway up at turn 4, they are using about all 5 lanes of the racetrack. Dale Earnhardt and Bobby Allison are right at the top of the track. Waltrip tried the bottom lane a minute ago and got just about flat sideways, so he's running about one groove off the bottom of the racetrack. But they're using every piece of it here at this end of the speedway. 29 laps have been completed here at Nashville. Waltrip leading, Buddy Baker hanging on to that second spot, and they're quickly overlapping a lot of the back markers as they go to the backstretch.
Waltrip definitely stretching his lead, but Buddy Baker doesn't want to let him get away. He got around Morgan Shepherd pretty effectively to keep his Waltrip right in his sights, and now Bouchard continues his work on Shepherd in the race for third and fourth.
Shepherd gets squeezed out of the groove a little bit this time as he comes off the corner, and it looks like the car is not working as well as it was in the early going. And Ned, when you run a car as hard as he and Darrell did in the early going, you can get it out of shape in a hurry.
Well, you can, Barney, but you can find out in a hurry whether the car really is dialed in right or not. I think Morgan is expecting the car to even work better as the night goes on and the track gets slicker. But I don't think it's working as well right now as he anticipated it would. He told me just after qualifying last night that he felt the car was really dialed in and that he should be super tough in this race, but it's not working as good as he thought it was going to.
Morgan Shepherd beginning to fall back a little bit from the front 3 or foursome right now. Waltrip still in front by about 6 car lengths over Buddy Baker. Baker really hanging in there here in the early going. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it all night long. As we said, he has won a race here at Nashville some years ago while driving for Harry Hyde, and he used to give Bud Moore's car quite a ride when he was driving for Bud Moore a few years ago. It's Baker in second spot. Third position, good run for Ron Bouchard. Fourth right now is still the 98 car, Morgan Shepherd. Then back to fifth spot, it's young Tim Richmond. Moving up to 6 is Terry Labonte. 7th is Harry Gant. And as they work the traffic up in turn number 4 and come back to the line.
We can't get our eyes off that battle for 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. That's a good one. You've got Earnhardt running all the way up on the wall. Jeff Bodine way down on the bottom. Bobby Allison split in the middle of that pack. And right in there with them are Jody Ridley and Bill Elliott melling forward. That's a good 5-car battle.
Well, Darrell Waltrip's blistering pace in the early going of the Busch 420 has already caught the tail end of the field. He has just slapped Dave Marcus and is now about to move around Joe Ruttman over in the number 3 corner and Buddy Arrington. And he is really moving around this racetrack just like he did when we were here in May.
Well, as Hal Hamrick used to say, they're racing all around the track tonight. That battle with Bobby Allison, Dale Earnhardt, and Jeff Bodine is just not to be believed. They're using up 3 racing grooves. Bodine right now on the bottom of the racetrack coming out of turn number 4 for the 7th spot. Earnhardt way up high against the wall, as is Allison. And right in the middle of it, the Fords of Jody Ridley and Bill Elliott. It's a good race, and it heads for the backstretch.
They're staying tight just the same way you described them in 3 and 4, Mike Joy. They come through 1 and 2. It is Earnhardt way up against the wall, and we can't help recalling the May race here when running in that line. He went up and hit the wall very hard and did some pretty severe damage to that automobile.
And Mike Joy, there's some activity or discussion in Ron Bouchard's pits. He had moved up on Morgan Shepherd, but now he's dropped back a little bit. And Harry Gant and Terry Labonte have moved around him. They were about to bring him in. They thought they had a tire going down, but he's still out there running, but he's not running at the pace he was a little earlier.
Dave Marcus just tags the rear end of Joe Ruttman's Pet Dairies
Caution
car
is out
as
on
they
the
came off
racetrack.
corner.
Debris on the racetrack, Barney, from that incident. Harold Kinder has brought out the caution flag, and what a tremendous break that is for several of the cars. As Ned pointed out, Ron Bouchard, the Dale Earnhardt machine as well. And Ned, that debris looks like sheet metal right in front of your position that a lot of the cars have just run over.
Yes, it does look like a piece of sheet metal, maybe a piece of the aluminum or something that they put around the bumpers to keep or in the grill or somewhere, but it can certainly cut one of these tires, and a few of the cars have hit it. Of course, they'll come in and change those tires now and not take any chances with them.
Debris on the front chute, the reason for this first caution of the evening, coming out on the 45th lap of the Busch 420 here at Nashville International Raceway. The cars, here's the leader, very quickly going on pit road. Let's go to Ned.
I suspect we'll see all of them, yes. Buddy Baker follows him, and here comes Joe Ruttman in the Pet Dairy car, Morgan Shepherd in the Levi Garrett entry. He was a pole sitter. They'll change the right side tires, fill them up with gasoline, and I'll tell you, the pits here at Nashville are not that big. They get very crowded, as they are right now. Ron Bouchard comes in, so does Tim Richmond. D.K. Ulrich going back out. Earnhardt is in, Terry Labonte, Bill Elliott, and Jeff Bodine. Practically everybody is in. There's not many cars left out on the racetrack right now. There's not any more room in the pit area either.
Pit stops continue to be the order of the day as Bill Elliott led that last lap by and will pick up 5 Winston Cup bonus points. Let's go back to Ned.
And Joe Ruttman is in for the second time changing left side tires, and he had a little problem. They couldn't get the jack under the left side, but finally they did, and he's down and away. Richard Petty, of course, was just in, and Elliott led that lap and then came in for right side tires. A few of the cars came back in for left side tires. Most of them just changed the right side tires and filled them up with Union 76 gasoline, and I'm sure there were some chassis adjustments as we looked up and down pit road. Some of the cars that were not working too well, they'll use this opportunity during the caution period to make those adjustments.
They're showing 19 cars still on the lead lap after that round of pit stops, and everybody's set to go racing again, and it's bunched the field right back up behind Darrell Waltrip. Buddy Baker rides in the second spot, and he hasn't been too far behind Waltrip all night long. And a good strong run and a surprise run in a way, and in some ways it's not a surprise to see Buddy Baker up there. He's turned into quite a race driver. He's learned to pace himself and use his equipment. I think when he won that race at Martinsville a few years ago, that kind of changed his whole thinking on what you need to do to use up yourself and your car to win.
Set to go racing again. 49 laps complete. The pace car stretches out the field, heads back for pit road, and we're ready to go back to racing with Waltrip once again at the head of the field.
Waltrip getting ready to go as Harold Kinder and Dole Ford on the flag stand here at Nashville wave the green, and we're back under green in the Busch 420. Waltrip gets a good jump coming up through the gearbox a little bit quicker. 3 car lengths on the rest of the field. Little breathing room for the moment. Here comes Baker going right after him in 2.
Well, and right on his rear deck is Terry Labonte, who got a good restart. He'll go to work on Baker with Bouchard 4th, Richmond 5th, and Dale Earnhardt up in 6th spot. Jeff Bodine is 7th, and Morgan Shepherd 8th.
Well, as Ned pointed out, there were some chassis adjustments made on some of the ill-handling cars in the early going. We'll see how well that serves to get them back up to the front. Waltrip back in turn number 2. Baker 2 car lengths back. Labonte's putting some heat on him.
Richmond, one of those cars to watch. He'd been having some difficulties getting off turn 2. He's now 5th on the field and has renewed his battle with Bouchard that saw them swapping sheet metal earlier in the race. They're running 4th and 5th.
Dale Earnhardt has his car working on the bottom of the racetrack. He's 6th. Jeff Bodine is 7th. Morgan Shepherd is 8th. 9th is Harry Gant. In 10th is Jody Ridley. 11th, Ricky Rudd. 12th is Joe Ruttman. 13th to Bill Elliott. 14th to Bobby Allison. 15th to Richard Petty ahead of Mark Martin.
Jeff Bodine's got some ideas as he goes to work on Darrell Waltrip, or check that on Dale Earnhardt. He had the nose inside Earnhardt for a moment and then saw that wisdom was the better part of valor and tucked back in line.
Bobby Allison hasn't been heard from in the early going here in the Busch 420. You can bet he will before the night is over. Neither has Richard Petty. They've been riding along right in the middle of the field. A lot of smoke out of one car as they hit turn 1.
That smoke looked like tire smoke. They got a little sideways there back in that pack running for 8th, 9th, and 10th.
From Lenny Pond's car number 24, the Cecil Gordon-owned car, and he slows as he goes down the backstretch into turn 3.
And it looked to be coming out of the headers on that car. And if it is, he'll be bringing it onto pit road. He might have lost an engine, or at least he's had some kind of major problem to bring the car onto pit road. No caution is on the speedway as Lenny Pond will limp onto pit road here at Nashville. Meanwhile, up front, Waltrip by 1 car length. Baker closes it up again, and Labonte is right there also. The front 3 in a draft by themselves come out of the 4th corner, about 15 car lengths ahead of Ron Bouchard. They're back in turn 1.
That Pond incident helped to break up the lead pack a little bit. Bouchard had to do a little feinting and dodging and lost a lot of ground on the racetrack. He's got about 4, 5, 6 car lengths perhaps on Tim Richmond, who's just ahead of Dale Earnhardt, and a side-by-side battle of Jeff Bodine and the pole sitter Morgan Shepherd.
Morgan Shepherd's car beginning to work again, and he's knocked off about 3 positions since they put him back under green, as right now he and Bodine are having a pretty good heads-up battle as they shuffle back into turn 1.
It's Shepherd on the low side of Bodine. Jeff has been working up top, and now here comes Morgan underneath. Harry Gant's going to try to go with him. Bodine gets a little sideways. Shepherd makes the pass, and now it's Gant side by side with Jeff Bodine.
Up out of the 4th corner, way back of the lead cars, about a quarter of a turn around the racetrack, Jeff Bodine falls into line. Into that pack that includes 3rd place Bouchard, 4th place Richmond, Earnhardt in 5th, Shepherd in 6th, Gant in 7th, and Bodine tail end of that parade is 8th.
Terry Labonte down the backstretch demonstrating his ability to run with that lead duo of Waltrip and Baker after the pit stop adjustment. It's a 3-car race for this one now.
Right now, after that round of pit stops, there seem to be about 15 cars that are sticking right on the bottom of the racetrack, and Bud Moore and the Wrangler crew did a good job on Earnhardt because a moment ago, Ned, it looked like he was just in total misery out there.
Yes, he was, Barney. He was having to use the high groove that we saw him use back here in May, and he was doing it rather effectively then. But it still is believed that the low groove, if you can get a car really working down there, is the best way around this racetrack. Certainly it's the shortest way around, but when they're on the high side, if they get good acceleration off of the turn, they go down the straightaway faster. But he does have his car working better now as Richmond goes on the inside of Bouchard for 4th position.
That battle is going on off the number 2 corner, still door to door.
Richmond definitely has improved the handling on his car. He's able to run with Bouchard now. Bouchard passed him with comparative ease earlier, but now Richmond passes him right back as Bouchard comes up the outside.
So many of the young drivers beginning to assert themselves in NASCAR Winston Cup racing this year, particularly in 1982. A lot of them have paid their dues for the last couple of years. They feel like they're ready to win. Richmond proved that out in California, and a lot of heat right behind him right now between Dale Earnhardt, Ron Bouchard, and Harry Gant and Morgan Shepherd and Jeff Bodine as that pack of cars work back into turn 4.
And in that next pack, we've got Bobby Allison, who has also come from the high groove down to the bottom. He's way back in 14th spot, but he's showing a good bit more speed than he did early on.
That battle once again heads up out of turn number 2, and it's a hot one for about 5th position on back.
Side by side go Harry Gant and Ron Bouchard. They are chasing Dale Earnhardt down the backstretch. Meanwhile, Morgan Shepherd and Jeff Bodine going right in behind him, and Bodine does tag from the back. Bouchard rather tagged from the back by Morgan Shepherd.
Everybody continues without further incident, but Bouchard's car came about halfway around, and it did split that pack up quite a bit. It puts them single file once again heading out of 2.
It is the J.D. Stacy machine of Tim Richmond leading that pack, and Bouchard and Shepherd have decided to cool off a lap and then have at it again. There's about a car length behind them. They're on the tail end of that 6-car pack.
Bobby Allison was talking this afternoon about the new young drivers who are beginning to come on so strong in Winston Cup racing.
I think it's an experienced game. And whereas a lot of other sports, the competitors come in with high school and college and minor league experience behind them, we have a lot of youngsters come into racing with very little racing experience behind them, and they got to get it somewhere.
They're getting a good piece of it here tonight at Nashville, Tennessee right now. Tim Richmond, Jeff Bodine, Ron Bouchard been hammering away on each other. Harry Gant, of course, he's got a lot of years under his belt, but he's caught right in the thick of that as they're getting drop kicked right and left going in and out of these corners. Good battle still back there right now as he's caught in the middle of it. Earnhardt getting tapped that time off the number 4 corner by Harry Gant as they work back into the number 1 turn.
One of the beauties in short track racing, if these guys can get in there and beat on each other, get a little bit physical. The speeds, of course, are pretty quick here. They're running 120 miles an hour down the backstretch, but compared to the 200-mile-an-hour super speedway speeds, it's a good bit slower. They're not afraid to beat on one another if the occasion calls for it.
And it also allows them to work off a little frustration from some of the big tracks where at 190 miles an hour, you don't do a lot of hammering out there. Waltrip is in front, and he's out front right now by the biggest margin we've seen tonight, almost.
Trouble in turn 2. They did not spin. Nobody got out of shape, but the cars that got together were Harry Gant and Jeff Bodine, and the number 86 machine of Darrell Sage also got involved, and Sage has now come down low on the racetrack. Everybody still appears to be at racing speed.
Sage is a new name in Winston Cup racing. He is 17 years old and races here Saturday nights and runs some Camaro-type racing elsewhere in the country, but it's his first Winston Cup start.
Good place to cut your teeth right here tonight, that's for sure. Waltrip is in front. As we said, he's about a half a straightaway or a little better on Buddy Baker, who rides in the 2nd spot. Then 2 car lengths back in 3rd position of Baker is the 44 car of Terry Labonte. In 4th spot right now, Tim Richmond. 5th is Earnhardt. 6th is Bodine. 7th is Gant as they string out about a straightaway behind the leader. Waltrip heads back into turn number 4.
Meanwhile, Allison has moved up. He is now working on Ron Bouchard. He's around Morgan Shepherd, and right at the moment, Allison is the car out there who appears to be picking up positions at the quickest rate.
Well, like Dale Earnhardt, here's Bobby going underneath Ron Bouchard. He'll get a good piece of him coming down the front straightaway and pick up that position. Like Earnhardt, Allison guessed wrong on the pre-race setup, but Ned, they seem to have that car working as well as anybody is tonight right now.
Yes, it certainly seems to be. Mike is able to run whichever groove that he needs to in the traffic.
Good race coming out of turn 4 for the 5th spot as Jeff Bodine gets underneath Dale Earnhardt. Harry Gant tries to follow him through but can't do it, and they come by a single file in that order. Waltrip the leader. Labonte rides in the 2nd spot, or rather Buddy Baker in 2nd. Labonte is 3rd. 4th is Richmond. 5th is now Bodine. 6th is Earnhardt. 7th to Harry Gant. 8th to Bobby Allison. 9th to Ron Bouchard. 10th is Morgan Shepherd. In 11th is Jody Ridley. 12th is Bill Elliott. 13th is Richard Petty. 14th is Ricky Rudd. In 15th is Mark Martin. The 16th place car would be the Joe Ruttman automobile. 17th is Kyle Petty. 18th would be Dave Marcus, and those are the cars on the lead lap. 72 laps have been completed. They're showing 17 cars on the lead lap here. It's easy to get down a lap in a hurry. Buddy Arrington just made an unscheduled pit stop about 5 laps ago.
Mike Joy, one of the retirees, one of the first retirees is Lenny Pond of Chester, Virginia. Lenny, what happened?
When they were to come out of 4 and start in the front straightaway, and something in the engine just turned loose, and I guess it broke it up pretty bad, or a cam or something, because it just cut right off.
Well, those things just happen without warning.
Well, it did. You know, it was running fine, and we wasn't too bad off because nobody out there is really working that well. And it just shut right off, you know, so it's all over for the night.
When you say they're not working that well, it does seem like that there's a lot of them doing a lot of dancing around, so to speak, on the racetrack.
Well, it's a whole lot of guys out there today working awful hard. They, you know, through the turns, they're really working, trying to keep the car going. And the further we run, the worse it's getting, you know, because you see more and more smoke coming off the tires. So it just could be whoever can survive tonight. Of course, Darrell's got it hooked up pretty good right now.
He usually does have here. Sorry to see you out, Lenny.
75 laps go up on the scoreboard, 22 seconds. Darrell Waltrip's lap time around this racetrack just shy of 23 seconds, 22.98. Buddy Baker is trying to make good on his pre-race promise and put the pressure on Darrell, but Barney, he's not having much luck with it, and it's starting to look like another kind of Waltrip dance away here at Nashville.
Well, it's just uncanny how Junior Johnson and the Mountain Dew team can find the combination on some of the short tracks like they do here in Martinsville and Bristol, Tennessee. Almost any driver you want to talk to before you start the race always feel like that's the car to the beat, and it usually turns out that way. Right now, Waltrip's having everything his way, but there's an awful long ways to go in the Busch 420. Saturday night short tracking here in Nashville, Tennessee. Darrell Waltrip scoots around underneath Dave Marcus to put him a lap down. He's the head of the field right now, trying to dominate the race like he did back here in May. We've completed 84 laps of competition in the Busch 420. Waltrip in front. Buddy Baker riding a strong second position around here, but he's almost a little better than a half a lap back right now. But Baker's got his hands full with Tim Richmond and taking an erratic groove over in front of Dave Despain.
Tim Richmond is using every bit of this racetrack. He'll run a couple of laps way up by the wall, come down on the inside pole for a couple of laps, and he's making time. He has moved around Terry Labonte. He brought Jeff Bodine with him, and now he's working on Baker on the front chute.
Well, Ned, of course, you've had a lot of years in these race cars, and sometimes you can explain it better than we can here in the booth. When you can take that outside line and keep the RPMs wound up and don't run up on any slow traffic, sometimes that's the fast way around.
Definitely, it'll shoot you off of the corners faster, Barney, because you don't lose as much speed up there. You're able to keep the RPMs of the engine higher, as Richmond is doing now. Baker's still using that low groove, and he has to, it sort of pinches the car down and does not let it come off of the corners as fast that way. But it just depends. Now, Waltrip, his car will work down on the inside. Of course, if he needs to go to the high side, he can work there also. But they have it geared accordingly to set the car up to run that way. And apparently, Richmond's crew set his up to run the high groove, and maybe even geared it that way, too, because you don't turn as many RPMs running up there as you would need to running down low.
Well, we saw Harry Gant almost win a race up at Dover, taking a line that's everybody said, hey, there's no way in the world he can beat anybody, but he almost beat everybody up there. Right now, Richmond's making it work for him, but he's beginning to get a little heat from Jeff Bodine as he tries to close in on Buddy Baker over in turn 3.
Bodine's right in the thick of this thing, and he's demonstrated that he's not afraid to get in there and bump it up a little bit. The front of that car is showing some sheet metal damage from the earlier confrontation coming off, too. That's a real three-car battle. Meanwhile, kind of a slow fade going on here for Morgan Shepherd and Ron Bouchard. They've fallen out of the top 10, and Richard Petty, who hasn't won this race in 10 years, has moved up to 8th spot.
Well, Shepherd was a victim of traffic. Both Ricky Rudd and Bouchard got by him. Traffic is such a factor here. Shepherd was in the low groove and got pinned down there. They kind of used a lap car as a pick, and Rudd and Bouchard went on by. So, Ned, I would think at this racetrack you really have to plan your moves pretty far in advance to avoid from getting caught in that situation.
Yes, you do, and especially when you're in heavy traffic, you want to be very, very careful as to who you're coming up on. Each driver knows the capabilities and the habits of the other driver out there, so they size them up accordingly as they approach them and then make their move accordingly.
Well, the fans have forgot about the leader for the moment. They're watching the battle for second spot, and it is a dandy between Buddy Baker right now and Tim Richmond and Jeff Bodine, as Richmond just keeps closing up. He was right alongside Baker a moment ago. Now the battle is between himself and Bodine over in turn 3.
They are side by side, about a car length behind Buddy Baker. Bodine's car likewise will work just about anywhere, and neither one of these kids is afraid to stuff it in there. They're really going at it for third spot.
Waltrip more than a straightaway ahead of the rest of the field. He's in front. Baker is second. The battle is a hot one for third spot, still going on between two of the younger set that has come into Winston Cup racing in the last few years. It's a hot one again, back in turn number 2.
Typical line for Buddy Baker. This time it's 2 car length separation. Still side by side are Bodine and Richmond. Richmond all the way up by the concrete.
Tim Richmond comes off that fourth corner, trying to gain some advantage on Jeff Bodine. The high groove is working for him, but not well enough. And all this racing for second has allowed Darrell Waltrip to open up a 9.3-second lead on the rest of the field. Still a good battle out of 2.
Bodine's got about a fender length on Richmond this time by. I think he's going to get that pass made, and they are rubbing down the backstretch. Those 2 cars are going to be junk before this one's over. The paint's going to all be gone.
They go in door to door, and Richmond slips a little bit coming off the corner. The rear end of the car broke out about 10 or 15 degrees. He gets it back in a straight line, and he doesn't lose any ground on Bodine, and they're still door to door.
Bodine runs right up on the rear deck of Buddy Baker. Buddy's got a lap car of Buddy Arrington in front of him, so they're going to single file it down the straight. They hit turn 3, and Bodine wants the inside.
And the fans, meantime, back in the field are cheering Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt, as they've been having a pretty good battle also.
Tim Richmond got underneath Bodine that time, coming off the fourth corner, and now they'll trade a little sheet metal again, and Buddy Arrington's the lap car, and second through fourth are stacked right up there with him.
Richmond right up to the back of Buddy Arrington, gives him a shove. The front end of Richmond's car weaving around. Buddy Baker is up on the outside. Now there's room. They go 3 abreast.
Richmond gets it. He moves up 1 notch, and again, Buddy Baker trying to hold off both these young drivers. Richmond's going to try him again. He tried the outside. Baker shut him off. Didn't give him any place to go, and he settles in right behind him over in turn 1.
Interesting change here for Richmond. He was having a lot of trouble getting off this turn early, but now he digs inside of Buddy Baker. Bodine can't decide which one to follow. It's Baker up the outside, and Richmond's going to tuck in behind him this time.
2 of the hard young Chargers against one of the veteran hardest Chargers on the circuit. Baker has the outside. His Pontiac comes right to the stripe, up against the wall. Richmond had the inside. Single file into the corner. Here comes Allison.
Looky here. Bobby Allison on the outside says, hey, I'm going to get in on this fun. All this fender rattling has made some room, and Bobby Allison comes up to make it a 4-car war.
Bobby Allison trying to knock off 3 spots at one clip. If he can get a little running room, he looks like he has the horsepower and the handling capability to do it. Baker is the second-place car. Waltrip is the leader, and Buddy Baker's had his rear-view mirror full of nothing else but Tim Richmond and Jeff Bodine as they hound him there, and he looks back and sees Bobby Allison there.
And Barney, one thing that's interesting about that battle between Richmond and Bodine, they've been running side by side for more than 10 laps as Bodine now moves into the 3rd position, but they've been able to keep up with Baker, even battling the way that they have.
That is strong when you can do that, particularly on the short track here at Nashville. Here's Allison diving underneath Tim Richmond in the number 1 corner, may gain a spot.
And they have separated that pack just a little bit. Now Richmond goes back to that characteristic high line. Bobby takes the low line as Baker freight trains into some lap traffic with Jeff Bodine right on his rear deck.
What all this has done is allowed Darrell Waltrip to open up an 11-second advantage on the field. Baker picks his way between 2 lap cars, and the hole closes up. Bodine follows him through. Richmond has to wait just a bit, and Allison will get caught lagging on that one as they work between James Hilton and Tommy Gale.
They've got more lap traffic ahead of them, too, so they may decide to single file it for a little while and keep one another out of trouble. Oh, none of that. Bodine wants the inside going to turn 3, but a lap car is going to snafu that effort.
And Bobby Allison wants to get up there and get a piece of it in case these youngsters are around at the end. He wants to find out how strong their cars are, what he can do, what their strong suit is here in the early going.
Well, Bodine spent 12 years on the NASCAR modified circuit, and Barney, the front end of that car is going to resemble a modified when he's done. There's not going to be any sheet metal left on it. He's got one more good shot at Baker as they get to turn 3 before they get to the lapped car.
Bodine is there alongside of Baker. They have a lap car ahead of them, Jimmy Means, and Baker's going to run up. Let's see which lane he takes. Bodine isn't backing out of the throttle as they haul it off into turn number 1. Baker squeezes him in behind Jimmy Means, and that'll block his effort for the moment.
15 cars in the lead lap as Darrell Waltrip enjoys a half a lap advantage. Buddy Baker is second. Jeff Bodine is third. Fourth right now, a battle between Bobby Allison and Tim Richmond. Harry Gant is sixth. Terry Labonte has the 7th position. Richard Petty has now moved up into the 8th spot. Dale Earnhardt runs in the 9th position. Jody Ridley is 10th, and that's all the cars that are on the lead lap from Nashville International Raceway. This is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
Victory Junction was young race driver Adam Petty's dream. He worked toward building a camp where children with serious medical conditions could concentrate on fun and not their illness or disease. When he died tragically, his family and friends around NASCAR made sure that dream came true. Today, Victory Junction is a camp that provides fun, life-changing experiences to children dealing with illnesses and disabilities, all at no cost to the camper. Help us serve more children by visiting victoryjunction.org.
Back at the Nashville International Raceway, the fans continue to watch Jeff Bodine work on Buddy Baker. He's been inside, outside. Baker's used up every inch of real estate. Here's Bodine at him again in 2.
Bodine showing a lot of front end damage. He's using that car as a battering ram, and now he's working on Buddy Baker. Right there with him is Allison. Bodine has the low line. He's up alongside Buddy's door.
Well, it's going to be a body man's nightmare here on Monday morning when they take that one back to the shop. But Bodine is using that car just like a boxer would his body to get through the holes. Good hot battle again. He may get it away from Baker off the 2 corner this time.
He's got about a half a car length on Buddy, and now he slips a little sideways and darts in front of Buddy Baker. That'll open the door for Allison. Allison and Baker go side by side into 3.
So Cliff Stewart, who owns that car, of course, he owns the Performance Connection that sponsors that car number 50 that Jeff Bodine drives. He's down here in the pits, and he's on the radio headset there just jumping up and down. He's having a ball down here tonight because he loves to see this fender banging.
Well, there's no way you can run a short track race and move up any position, do any racing with anybody without putting some marks on the car. None of the drivers get upset about it. We're not knocking Bodine for the way he's driving, because if you're going to move up and do some hard racing, you're going to have a few marks on the race car. They'll all have some on there before the night is over. Bodine doing a whale of a job here at Nashville, Tennessee. Waltrip right now trying to lap the field like he did back in May, and he's succeeded about a half of that lap right now.
Bobby Allison has now moved up to the 3rd spot. He's moved around Buddy Baker, and Tim Richmond closes in on Baker as they go to the back straightaway. They're still working race traffic, moving up on the Joe Ruttman and J.D. McDuffie automobile, but for now, Bodine has clear sailing. Of course, Waltrip is long gone. He is more than half a lap ahead, and now he's got only, I believe, 7 or 8 cars on the lead lap with him. But the battle heads out of 2.
It's Jeff Bodine leading Bobby Allison off turn 2. Allison whips around Darrell Sage's slower automobile, and he's opened up about 10 car lengths now on the Buddy Baker, Tim Richmond, and Harry Gant battle.
Leader continues to be Darrell Waltrip. I don't think I've seen a more intense race driver this year than Darrell Waltrip has been. He won the Winston Cup Championship last year, and winning has almost become an obsession with this young driver. He says that winning is everything, and he really gets keyed up about it.
You know, they don't come down and take the losers to the press box. So whoever wins the race, they get to go up there, and they get to have a good time and enjoy themselves. And if you don't win, there's really not much to say. You got outrun, or you had engine failure, or whatever happened to you, and you go home. I don't know, I don't know what guys expect you to do after you've had a bad night, or even after you've gotten outrun, except to say, hey, I got outrun. They think because you don't get out and celebrate like a winner does that you're a sore loser. I don't like to get beat, but I'll tell you right now, I like a good hard race, and if I come in second, I can live with that with no problem.
Darrell Waltrip talking about his intensity to win every time he goes on the racetrack. And Ned, I think you'll have to agree, he is a very intense driver. He goes out there to win.
He certainly does, Barney, every time. And during the last practice period here this afternoon, that number 11 was on jacks covered up down in the garage area, so that was sort of a bad sign for the rest of the team. That meant that they had that thing dialed in the way that he wanted it, and he usually gets it that way here at Nashville. Harry Gant now trying to make a move on Tim Richmond. His car is working pretty well, too. He's had to come up through a lot of traffic, but Gant's on the move.
That's the race for 5th spot. Gant and Richmond back at 7th spot. Richard Petty has moved around Terry Labonte, and that may be because Darrell Waltrip is about to gobble them up. Waltrip has now lapped all but the next 7 cars on the racetrack as Petty now moves up to overlap Joe Ruttman. The battle still at turn 2 for 5th spot, Tim Richmond, Harry Gant.
They're side by side with Richmond on the high side and Gant down low, and they're battling Buddy Baker, who's got just a car length on that duel. Harry can't find a way around the inside line. He's had his path blocked at every turn, but he's sticking right with it.
Gant down on the inside groove. Tim Richmond rides in the outside, trying to hold him off as Buddy Baker's, every time he's looked in the mirror, there's been a heck of a battle going on for a spot right behind him, and Baker just trying to hold what he's got, which is currently the number 2 position. They're still door-to-door in turn 2.
It's number 2 position by about 2 feet now, and Richmond is really squirrely as he comes out of turn 2 every time. He cocks the car a little bit sideways and just puts his hoof in it, and that's reminiscent of his days on the dirt tracks before he became an Indianapolis potential, a Rookie of the Year at Indy back in 1979.
Well, we said a moment ago that Jeff Bodine had a few marks on his car. Harry Gant and Tim Richmond are beginning to get a few black scuff marks, a little dented-in dings on their cars as they beat and peck on each other going through the corners. Right now, Gant will get the spot away moving into turn number 4. Harry Gant has just moved up to 3rd position. Richmond falls back to 4th spot as they work out of the corner. Kyle Petty riding along in there. Richard Petty right behind Kyle. Richard should be in the 6th position. He's having a pretty good run. They're back in 2.
As the battle comes off, this time it's stabilized somewhat with Buddy Baker now running in that 4th spot. 5th is Gant and 6th is Richmond, and they're nose to tail for the first time in about 10 laps.
Well, let's reset those. Jeff Bodine is in the 2nd position, and Bobby Allison is running into 3rd place. And then comes the battle between Gant and Buddy Baker for 4th.
That'll be the 4th and 5th place battle. In 6th is Tim Richmond, and that battle decided in favor of Gant as Baker getting boxed in the backstretch.
Indeed, Harry Gant just dove underneath and the Sonny King car and made the pass. That left Buddy Baker hung out to dry. Took Buddy about the length of this city-long backstretch to get clear of traffic, and he lost a couple car lengths in the process.
122 laps complete. Let's set the field. Darrell Waltrip is the leader. There are but 7 cars on the lead lap as Waltrip closes up on 7th place, Richard Petty. So Waltrip is up front. Jeff Bodine is 2nd. He is feeling the heat from 3rd place, Bobby Allison. Harry Gant has moved to 4th. Buddy Baker is 5th. Tim Richmond is 6th, and Richard Petty is 7th. 1 lap off the pace. 8th is Terry Labonte. In the 9th spot is Jody Ridley. 10th is Dale Earnhardt. 11th is Ricky Rudd. In the 12th spot is Bill Elliott. 13th is Morgan Shepherd. 14th is Mark Martin. And 15th is Ron Bouchard. Those are the cars that are 1 lap down. The race is for 5th spot as they come past start-finish. Tim Richmond along with Buddy Baker trying to keep from going a lap down, but Waltrip just eases on by.
Darrell Waltrip up on the outside has put Richard Petty and Buddy Baker behind him, and as he works Tim Richmond down the backstretch, it's Waltrip up the outside and going around with ease.
So Waltrip now has only 4 cars with him on the lead lap. Bodine in 2nd. Bobby Allison in 3rd and Harry Gant 4th as Waltrip moves past Tim Richmond to put Richmond a lap down.
Darrell Waltrip trying to demolish the field here at Nashville, Tennessee, and he's done a pretty good job on most of them right now as he works his way around the south end of the speedway and pulls up alongside of Ron Bouchard, and that would put him 2 laps now. And if he can get underneath him, and he does, going over into turn number 3. Waltrip just setting a blistering pace, and it is totally uncanny, as we mentioned earlier, how Junior Johnson's team can find the right combination on the short tracks. And he's been able to do that, what, Ned, for the last 15 years?
Yes, he has, Barney, and I think that it goes back to the days when Junior Johnson was driving a race car himself. Of course, Dale Earnhardt really almost lost it coming off of turn 4. He gathered it back in, though. But Junior knew how to set a car up to get around, to get the most out of it through the turns on the short track. And then when you put that with a guy like Darrell Waltrip, his driving ability and also Darrell's ability at a track like Nashville, where he's had so much experience in sportsman competition before he came to Grand National, and that was winning experience here also. And you put all of that together, and I'll tell you, they're a tough combination to beat.
That's a big asset for any race team, is to have a driver who can tell you what the car needs. If it's pushing, loose, whatever, you can come in and say, let's put a 400 spring here, or let's do this, or let's do that, rather than just come in and tell the crew, hey, it's pushing, you fix it.
It's very important. It's very important today, Barney, as the sport of auto racing gets more and more scientific. Every little contribution by the driver and what he knows about the automobile is very, very important.
That's why it's so important for the young drivers to get in there and kind of get their hands dirty, so to speak, work on the race car and find out what makes it work and why it doesn't work at times. Waltrip is the leader, just having a field day here at Nashville at his home track. The fans give him a lot of cheer when he came on here tonight, made him feel real good, and he's out there running his heart out for him. He told us that winning here probably meant more to him than it did any racetrack he run on, even Junior's track at North Wilkesboro.
Well, there are a lot of green shirts here in this grandstand tonight, Barney, and it is one track where the ovation is definitely positive for Waltrip, and of course that's got to give any driver a lift, and especially Darrell, with the reception he's received from the fans at some of the tracks lately. It's got to be a lift going into a race like this.
It's made a big difference for him, and he really gets pumped and keyed up for his home track here, and he's putting on quite a show for the fans tonight. As he whirls around this racetrack, no problem at all for Waltrip. He works traffic, now pulls up on the bumper of Harry Gant, and that will be the 4th place car, and Gant right now having his hands full, holding him back there, Dave Despain.
Harry's doing his best, but I think it's only a matter of time. Waltrip's definitely got the handle, and they're just about 100 yards behind. A good battle now for 2nd place with Allison and Bodine.
3 wide coming off that corner up there between Bodine and Bobby Allison as they sandwich Mark Martin out against the wall. Bodine comes out ahead of Allison this time as they get up on heavy traffic back in turn 2.
Once again, Bodine has the better line around a slower automobile, and Allison has to settle for the 3rd spot as they work their way down the back chute. They have put Mark Martin a lap down, and they've got Darrell Waltrip coming right behind Harry Gant.
Well, Mike Joy, I think you've seen Bodine start his career up in the part of the country you came from, around Connecticut and up in that area. And I don't think there's a more intense young driver who is determined that he will make it in this sport than even Waltrip was when he came along.
Well, he reminds me a lot of Darrell when Darrell first came on the racing circuit. Jeffrey is intense, and he's dedicated to running that race car as hard as it can, and he was very happy, of course, to win the pole for the Firecracker 400 last week at Daytona. And he says, well, we just go on to our next goal, and that is to win a race. And after a good finish there, a couple of good top 10 finishes, they've got that Cliff Stewart Performance Connection team in gear. And right now, he really has his hands full with Bobby Allison for that 2nd spot.
Allison's been putting a lot of moves on Bodine, inside and outside. Waltrip has moved around Harry Gant, so the next thing that battle will have to contend with will be Darrell Waltrip showing up in the rearview mirror.
Bobby Allison gets crossed up coming off the 4th corner. He might have bumped together a little bit with Jeff Bodine, almost got the car completely out of shape, hangs it back on the bottom of the racetrack and keeps it in a straight line, and that's going to allow Waltrip to close the gap even tighter. He's just 6 car lengths back.
Makes it a little easier for Waltrip as they set up to try to get around that duo, because Allison had been running side by side with Bodine, but now they're single file about 3 or 4 car lengths apart.
Well, they're coming up on Lake Speed and the DK Ulrich automobile, so they go back single file. Mark Martin gets the passing flag, holds to the outside. Waltrip moves under him, and that'll allow Bodine and Allison a bit of breathing room for a moment.
Not going to last long because Waltrip is definitely there. That car is handling on rails. He can put it anywhere he wants to on the racetrack, and it's really quick coming off the corners.
The interval shortens between Darrell Waltrip and Bobby Allison, the 3rd place car. He's lapped everybody else except Bobby Allison and Jeff Bodine. and he has them inside as he heads into turn number 1. The interval right now between Bobby Allison and Waltrip going a lap down, or Allison going a lap down, 6 car lengths in front of Dave Despain.
And you can't help but consider the point standing implication here. Bobby Allison took over the point lead with his victory last Sunday in the Firecracker 400. A win here would help Darrell Waltrip's lot considerably as he tries to close up on Allison in the points.
They move by Lake Speed as they come down the front straightaway. Bodine, now Allison gets by him. So Waltrip will be looking to lap Speed for the second time tonight and close up on those second and third place cars. And Ned, I think in pre-race, as close as qualifying was, I don't think anybody would have predicted that Waltrip would have almost a lap on the field before this race is even halfway over.
No, I don't think they expected that. They knew that he was the man to beat, Mike, but they all thought that they would be dialed in better than they were here in May. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Here's Mark Martin coming in the Apache Stove Roger Cadillac Pontiac. That you might consider that an unscheduled pit stop, but we might see some others coming up here very shortly. They've run a little over 100 laps since they were in the pits. No problem as far as gas is concerned because they can go about 150 to 160 laps here on a tank of fuel. But the tires really take a beating on this racetrack, and now you'll see Mark Martin, as he goes back out on the track, he'll pick up a lot of speed with those cool, fresh tires.
Let's see how Bobby Allison handles Darrell Waltrip. Allison is one of the toughest in the business. He won't give you anything on a racetrack. He's making Waltrip work for it. Squeezes him into the outside lane. He's trying to put Allison a lap down. Again, Bobby uses up a lot of real estate. Waltrip may get him in turn 1.
Allison on the inside. Up the outside goes Waltrip. He's almost clear, but not quite. Bobby gets a good dig back underneath. Bodine opening up about 2 car lengths, and Waltrip sandwiches into the middle. He's got Allison behind him.
So Bobby Allison goes a lap down, and now only Jeff Bodine is on a lap with the leader. As they come off 4, Waltrip stays to the high groove. Bodine keeps his car right to the bottom of the racetrack, and the distance from him going a lap down is but a car length, and Waltrip closes even further as they get to turns 1 and 2.
My guess would be that Waltrip will take it pretty easy and find a good spot to get around Bodine. He hasn't had much look at what Bodine's been up to tonight, but he can see some of the indications on his car that Jeff's not afraid to mix it up with you.
Bodine making him work as hard as Bobby Allison did, although Waltrip right now's car is working so beautiful you can't believe it here at Nashville, Tennessee. Bodine has held him back there so far. He is the second place car. Waltrip trying to put him a lap down. Will try the outside this time off the 2 corners.
Bodine got a good drive out the low side of the racetrack and keeps Waltrip behind him. Darrell obviously wants to go around him on the outside. He's not tried to stuff underneath Jeff Bodine.
Waltrip on the outside. It's the long way around the racetrack. He tries it off turn number 4. He's up there, has the fender alongside of Bodine, and they go head-to-head in turn number 1.
Who's got the handle? Waltrip sticks about the fender well out front. Now Bodine trying to come back up the inside. They're going to be side-by-side. Traction off the turn counts, and Waltrip's got it.
Darrell Waltrip now has a lap on the field in the Busch 420. Only 150 laps completed here at Nashville, and Waltrip has lapped the field.
At Nashville, Tennessee, a Saturday night, it's pretty cool out there. I don't think it's quite as hot as it usually is when we come here in July. The heat has been a big factor here in some years past. Last year, Darrell Waltrip totally dehydrated and completely demolished after winning here, and that was when he burned his foot so badly last year. But, Ned, it isn't all that bad tonight, is it?
No, it isn't. In fact, it's one of the better nights for racing that we've seen in a long time here at Nashville. Of course, there was some rain during the day here, which cooled it off, and apparently took the humidity down a little bit also, and so it's a very comfortable night here.
But they still got an awful long ways to go, and short track driving makes you work every inch all the way around the racetrack. No time to relax, any place on the speedway.
Bobby Allison has moved around Jeff Bodine to take over the second position here in the Busch 420. Before we broke for commercial, we gave you the cars that were 1 lap down. Of course, the only car on the lead lap is Waltrip, and that takes you back through 13th position. 2 laps off the pace. 14th is Ron Bouchard. 15th is Kyle Petty. 3 laps back, Mark Martin is 16th. 17th is Lake Speed. 18th is Dave Marcus, and 19th is Joe Ruttman. 6 laps off the pace is J.D. McDuffie in 20th, and Darrell Sage 21st. 22nd is Buddy Arrington, 7 laps back. And 23rd rather is Jimmy Means. 24th is James Hilton. He's 8 laps down. 9 laps down are Tommy Gale and D.K. Ulrich. And out of the race, the Lenny Pond and Slick Johnson automobiles. That with 161 laps out of 420 completed.
Here is the leader, Waltrip, heading back into the number 1 corner. And if there is any indication that that car is giving up anything, you certainly can't tell it the way he's getting around the racetrack. The tires seem to be working perfectly after far better than 100 laps out there in competition, and the pace he is setting, Ned, if he can keep that thing together, I don't think anybody can overhaul him at all.
No, I don't think so either, Barney. And one thing about a good handling automobile, he's not putting as much strain on his tires as those that are having a little bit of a problem. They might be putting more pressure, say, on the right front or the right rear, wherever the problem with the car is, that it's not handling as well as his is. And the more pressure and strain they put on it, the worse it's going to make the matter, because it heats the tires up that much more and makes it skid around all over the racetrack. So it just compounds the problem, where his is sitting there apparently just everything working exactly like it needs to, and so he's not using up the tires and just pulling away.
Well, Junior Johnson standing down on pit road in that very familiar position with his foot up on the guardrail. Half the time, Junior's looking at the racetrack. The other half the time, he looks like he's looking out in the infield, just daydreaming. And sometimes, even when the competition gets so hot up there for his driver, Darrell Waltrip, you'd almost swear that Junior isn't even paying attention to what's going on, but I'm sure he is.
Yeah, he is. I'll guarantee you he is.
Well, the biggest smile on the track right now belongs to Darrell Waltrip. There's a carbon copy of it on the face of Jack Arute, the racing director for Mountain Dew division of Pepsi-Cola. You folks didn't practice at all afternoon. Put the car up on jacks, covered it up, went back to the motel.
Well, we didn't exactly go to the motel. You know, this is Darrell's hometown over in Franklin, and Darrell and Stevie always invite the entire crew out there for the afternoon. And so it was very important for us, Mike, that we got the car dialed in this morning, because we didn't want to miss the barbecue this afternoon.
Any wisdom from the top of the mountain you'd care to relate about why Junior's cars just always run so well here? Just get dialed in and as you say, set it up and then just wait for the race to start.
I think probably, Mike, it's years and years of experience. Junior Johnson raced here. Darrell Waltrip cut his teeth here. When you combine those two factors, I think the chase for the Winston Cup last year, this was the turning point. And hopefully it's going to be the turning point again this year.
A lot of people during pre-race did not expect Darrell to dominate this race this thoroughly. Did your team?
Not exactly. I think one of the things that we've learned in the first half of the year, Mike, is that with the competitiveness of the Winston Cup in 1982, nobody's going to dominate like they did last year. To win 12 races, that was phenomenal for us in the Mountain Dew team. This year, the goal is to win the Winston Cup, even if it only takes 6 races, and it may very well just take 6.
What is the game plan? You get a lap on the field. Now, here in May, Darrell went, lapped the field, and then kind of cruised, would pass cars at will, but was in no rush to put the field, let's say, 2 laps down. Is that kind of what's going on right now?
Common sense dictates the race from here on, and I think Mike and Barney would both agree. We talk about Junior Johnson. Sometimes when he looks like he's far off in the distance somewhere, that's what he's thinking about. He's not here on this lap, which, what 169? He's already thinking about lap 200 and 220.
Looks like you're already here for the press box interview.
No, not exactly. We just
Trouble
decided...
in turn one car looks to be Morgan Shepherd. A lot of smoke as he goes up in the high groove.
Shepherd's got a lot of lower traffic coming down below him, and he dove right in front of Terry Labonte and almost tagged Labonte's car. Shepherd never saw him coming. Now Shepherd is out of harm's way, but showing lots of smoke, and Labonte gets by without incident.
This will bring out the second caution flag as it is being displayed in the field right now by Harold Kinder.
Pit stops, the order of the day, as we're under caution. Ned Jarrett is on his way to get to Morgan Shepherd, who has brought out this caution on the 170th lap. And Barney, a tire's gone rolling off from the end of pit road.
Yeah, it bounced right out in front of one of the race cars, hits the outside wall, and now rolls back onto pit road of its own accord, so nobody gets in any trouble there. Darrell Waltrip again gets in and out of the pits first. Let's go for a report to Ned Jarrett.
Well, Morgan Shepherd has crawled out of the Levi Garrett Buick number 98. Of course, he was a pole sitter here for this race, but Morgan, a stream of smoke and oil as you brought her into the garage area here.
Well, you know, Raymond done everything he could to get us the engine to qualify on the pole, and he done a super job and had the engine pumped up pretty tight. And, you know, it's just one of them chances you take. We needed a pole real bad. We got it, and, you know, we took a chance on running the engine for the race.
Morgan, you had to change your driving style. You were running right up next to the wall there. Was it not handling as well as you had hoped it would?
Right, Ned. I reckon I just missed it again here at Nashville. I felt like the car was going to run tight all night, and I had to hunt me a different pattern to run. And once I got my pattern up against the wall, I believe there at the end we was quickest thing on the track and was running everybody back down.
Well, Darrell Waltrip has really got it dialed in once again. What are they doing that's so different and so good for him here?
Well, they've just hit the right combination at this track. You know, Darrell was born in this area, and Junior knows all the tricks of the trade. And, you know, they got it right, and we're working to catch them, and we're going to be there before long.
Okay, that's Morgan Shepherd, the Levi Garrett Buick, now parked in the garage area, but congratulations on his first Busch pole of the year.
Well, the Perseverance Award today goes to Slick Johnson. Slick spent some time in the garage area. He was 65 laps down, but under this caution, he's made up a lap, so he's coming back.
Right. The president of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company has taken a moment out of his schedule to step into the booth and chat with us here at Nashville, Tennessee on a Saturday night. And Jerry Long, this is your first trip to Nashville.
It certainly is, Barney, and it's a delight to be again with the twin voices of MRN, Mike Joy and Barney Hall, and I'm delighted to be here with you. And I'd also like to welcome you back to Nashville International Raceway. It's great to have both of you announcers here back in this raceway. And I think it's great for the Winston Cup Series.
You like the short track competition, the bump and grind, and I guess you've seen some of that down at Bowman Gray Stadium. It kind of looks like that type racing.
I sure do. You know, there's something I think is a little color story here. As we see Darrell Waltrip one lap up on the field. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to be passing through Wilkesboro and stop off at Junior's house and stop in to say hello. And I went out in the back garage area, and Junior was out there with his crew working on this car. And we noticed that the head engine man for Junior was commenting that he thought he had enough power in the car this week to take the pole position. And as Jackie Arute said before, when you see Junior sitting there with his hands over his head not saying anything, you know his thinking. And finally Junior actually looked up and he said, heck, he says, I don't want to win the pole position. He says, I want to win this darn race. And he says, I'm going to do something about it. And I guess some of you have had the chance to be out here in the pit area and in the garage area before the race, and I had the opportunity with a lot of our Winston folks to be down there. Junior himself spent about 45 minutes on the engine of the car before the race started, and I think Junior did some fine-tuning.
Well, he does his homework. He is prepared anywhere they go. We're ready to go back to green here at Nashville. Jerry, thanks for taking a moment. I know you want to get back to watching the race.
Thanks an awful lot, Barney. Delighted to be with both Mike and you again.
Jerry Long, the president of R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. We are under green again at Nashville, Tennessee, and Waltrip is at the head of the field. They're going to try him one more time. Bobby Allison is right behind him in the second spot, trying to unlap himself, and so are Jeff Bodine and the rest of the field as they chase him out of turn number 4 and back into the straightaway. And with stuff changed all around the cars, 4-tire change on some of the machines, they go at him over in turn 2.
Allison right on the rear deck of the leader all night long. Darrell Waltrip. He and Harry Gant would love to get around Waltrip and get some opportunity to get that lap back as they hit turn 3.
Gant wastes no time trying to move to the outside of Bobby Allison, sees no place to go there, tucks back in as Waltrip leads him back across the line to put another lap on the board. He is on a lead lap all by himself. Allison rides second, third is Harry Gant. The fourth place car should be Richard Petty. Fifth is Jeff Bodine as they head up the back chute and back into turn number 3. Again, Waltrip is able to hold them off as they come off the fourth corner. And he is setting a blistering pace here at Nashville, Tennessee tonight, just like he did when he was here in May as they worked turn 1 in front of Dave Despain.
Waltrip opening up a couple of car lengths on Bobby Allison. Harry Gant is glued right to the rear end of Allison's machine. It's about 25-30 yards back to Richard Petty in fourth spot, and fifth place Jeff Bodine is right on Petty's rear deck.
Up out of turn number 4, Darrell Waltrip leads the field off. Quickly they'll put a lap on Tommy Gale. Allison, Harry Gant running second and third, Richard Petty in fourth, Jeff Bodine. Then the Dale Earnhardt machine is 2 back, and they slip by Tommy Gale out of turn 2.
Gant didn't get around Tommy Gale, now has to duck to the outside and try to make that move. That's going to give Allison a little pad as they hit turn 3.
Allison trying to get his lap back. Waltrip has none of that as they come off the fourth corner. And now Darrell begins to pull away already after being back under green about 4 laps.
He's really picked the pace up, Barney. They were running about 23 seconds a lap just prior to the caution. He's got it down to the 21.7 second range. He's trying to scoot away of any kind of calamity that may happen behind him as they jockey for position. Allison is second. Gant is third. Petty is fourth. Bodine is in the 5th spot. 6th is Tim Richmond. In 7th is the Terry Labonte machine, now the point-standing runner-up. 8th is the Bill Elliott car, and 9th is Jody Ridley as they head up out of 2.
Harry Gant dives inside. Bobby Allison, picture-book pass right there. He just slipped underneath and managed to throttle and got the traction he needed. It's Harry Gant now second.
Gant made as Dave Despain said, a picture-perfect move, diving underneath Bobby Allison. the same move that Allison used to get that second spot from Jeff Bodine earlier.
And Gant is now picking up on Waltrip a little bit. He thinks that he can do it and get his lap back. Waltrip is having to run harder right now than he wants to, Mike Joy, but he has to keep them a lap down, because if they're strong enough to get up there and challenge him for that pass, if they should get around and a caution come out, he knows that they'd be tough to contend with.
Harry Gant had the fastest car in the first practice runs here yesterday, and they felt like Gant might even get the pole, and they didn't say too much about what happened on the pole position run, but right now they've got it all gathered back, and he is going after Darrell Waltrip over in turn number 3. He's about a car length back, and Darrell right now is not pulling away. In fact, Gant is reeling him in.
Gant is there. He is right on the back bumper of Darrell Waltrip as they come past the start-finish stripe and down into turn number 1, and they move up on the James Hilton car.
In just 2-3 laps, Harry Gant has put about 15 car lengths on Allison, and he is right on the rear deck of the leader. The class of the field tonight has been Waltrip, but suddenly there's a challenger.
Well, Gant is right at home on the Saturday night short tracks. I guess, Ned, you remember when he used to do it over at Hickory every Saturday night, knocking heads with Jack Ingram and Bob Presley, and he got his share of knocks, so he's right at home out there.
He's paid his dues, no question about it, and he's won big sportsman races on this racetrack too, Barney. They made some adjustments on that car during that pit stop, put on 4 new tires. He has it dialed in right now. He's probably the fastest car on the racetrack because he ran Waltrip down, now trying to get around him.
Travis Carter, the crew chief on the car, spent a lot of years with Junior Johnson, and he's no slouch when it comes to getting a car to working himself. And right now he's done his homework on Gant's car as he goes after Waltrip, and he is putting the heat on him. He drop-kicked him a little bit off that second turn last time around, Dave Despain.
He did indeed. There's a little bit of dent in the front end of Harry's car. He's not afraid to shove it in there. Those things look like 2 green streaks down the backstretch.
The order is unchanged. Darrell Waltrip still leading Harry Gant by a lap, and Gant is doing everything in his power to try and get it back. Ned Jarrett is on his way down for a word with Travis Carter and find out just what adjustments they made on that 711 Skoal Bandit Buick during the last round.
Here, if Travis can hear us. Travis, he seems to be running a lot stronger now than he was before. Did you make some adjustments during that pit stop?
Well, we made adjustments on those pit stops, but he's pretty well got everybody covered tonight. We'll just do the best we can to try to finish second, I think.
So the plan right now is try to get back in the lead lap, huh?
Well, if Darrell should get caught in a slow car and make a bobble or something, we might have a chance, but it's pretty grim.
Well, this whole crew is primed here that he can catch him at some point and get back in that lead lap.
Well, he's sure giving it a game try right now. He is not letting Waltrip get away. Harry has been right there on his bumper since they put him back under green, and right now he's less than a car length behind him. As for the moment, he seems content just to ride there, maybe wait for a traffic situation that would give him a shot at getting back on the lead lap. Waltrip is still in front at Nashville, Tennessee. He's on a lap all by himself. Harry Gant's been trying to get back on the lead lap as he gets Waltrip in traffic this time off turn number 2.
He's trying to put the pinch on him. Harry went up around the outside, but Jimmy Means moved down, let Waltrip have the line, and Harry Gant still second, but he made a heck of a run at it right there.
Harry Gant had a shot at Darrell just a second ago coming off that number 2 corner. If he could have pinched Darrell right in behind Jimmy Means a little bit quicker, he could have got his lap back, but Waltrip saw that situation coming and moved up in the groove, didn't give him the time to do it. As he hounds him again off the number 2 corner, Darrell is in front on the lead lap by himself. Gant rides second. Bobby Allison is third. He's perhaps 3 seconds behind in that third position. Right behind him rides right now Richard Petty in 4th spot. And 5th is Jeff Bodine.
6th will be Tim Richmond. 7th is the Terry Labonte automobile. 8th is Bill Elliott. 9th outside pole sitter Buddy Baker. And 10th is Ricky Rudd. Then 2 laps off the pace, Jody Ridley is 11th. Dale Earnhardt is 12th. 3 laps back are Ron Bouchard, Kyle Petty, and Mark Martin. 4 laps off the pace, Joe Ruttman and Dave Marcus.
The attrition rate has not been high at all here at Nashville, Tennessee, and that is such a credit to the mechanics. A few years ago, less than probably 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of times as much as half the field would be sitting in the garage area, not only on the short tracks, but the super speedways and all around. And seemed like the last year and a half, if you lose 5 or 6 cars, it's unusual.
Yes, it is, Barney, and it is quite a tribute to the mechanics, the men who put these things together, prepare them for each race, and that's one thing that has helped to make Winston Cup competition so competitive, is the fact that the cars are prepared better, they'll run longer, they can run harder longer, I should say, and that just makes for good competition.
There's plenty of it here tonight if they could just figure out a way to deal with Darrell Waltrip as he has lapped the field. If you joined our broadcast late, the only top contender in the field that has fallen to the wayside, Morgan Shepherd, who started on the pole. Something went sour in his engine, and he has gone to the garage area. He is out.
We had a race, I think it was last August race at Michigan International Speedway. Dave Marcus finished the race only one lap off the lead pace and was a little disgusted to find out he'd go home with 18th place money, being only one lap down.
But that's the kind of competition that's been on the Winston Cup Tour for the last couple of years. The competition just gets better week after week. You keep hearing us say that, but it really, really does. Whereas a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 cars were given a shot to win every time they dropped the green. There's a legitimate 12 to 15 out there. If the brakes fall their way, can get it done. But tonight, the brakes are going to have to fall on Darrell Waltrip's head for somebody to roll into victory lane besides himself. Still an awful long ways to go in the Busch 420, and Harry Gant is really just chewing the rear bumper off Waltrip's car, but he can't get around him. They're back in 1.
Part of Harry's problem is the Waltrip has the fast line. Those cars really tap as he comes into turn 2. The pattern has been for Harry to run right up on the tail of Waltrip in the middle of turn 2. He's got a better line coming out of the turn, but Waltrip's got the dig. He's got the traction, and he's able to pull away by just that little bit that he needs to keep Gant at bay.
Say one thing about the crowd here. This is a pro Waltrip crowd. Harry Gant gave Waltrip a shot, and I think about 3 people right down here in front of us stood up, but everybody else seems to be pulling for Darrell in that Mountain Dew machine tonight.
Well, they were all insurance adjusters that jumped up worrying about a whiplash claim because he could really give him one the way he tapped him over there a moment ago. Waltrip's in front. He's on a lap by himself. Gant rides in second spot. He's the only car close to him right now, trying to get himself unlapped. Bobby Allison, about 4 or 5 seconds back, rides in the 3rd spot. 4th is Richard Petty. 5th is Bodine. 6th is Tim Richmond. He's having a good run here tonight. Was right up in the thick of things for a while. Then in 7th spot, Bill Elliott's also having a good run, and Terry Labonte rides in 8th position.
That battle for 4th place is beginning to close up. Richard Petty has 4th in his STP Pontiac. The Pontiac of Jeff Bodine and the Buick of Tim Richmond, they're all just a car length apart as they come off 4. And it's again the type of situation we've seen earlier. Richmond way up on the top of the racetrack. The other 2 cars down low as they head for the back straightaway.
And on the back straightaway, they're going to pass J.D. McDuffie, whose crippled car is limping down on the inside. It's not going to cause anybody any problem. There go Petty, Bodine, and Richmond flashing by on the outside.
Good battle for the 4th position out of turn 4. Petty down low. Bodine working the high groove now with Richmond as he tries to close in. 1 car length separates Petty from Bodine. Now there is no difference as they go to the turn 2.
Bodine had a notion to go up top, decided not to. Instead, Richmond went all the way to the outside. Bodine within inches of Petty will try the inside at turn 3.
Bodine takes it right to the bottom of the racetrack. They get together a little bit and swap some paint between Richard Petty and Jeff Bodine, and Bodine has it by half a car length, and caution is on the speedway for the 3rd time this evening.
J.D. McDuffie's car is stalled on the racetrack here on lap 210. This will be the 3rd caution of the evening as J.D. McDuffie's car is stalled between turns 3 and 4 down at the track apron. And Ned, it doesn't look as if this will be as welcome a caution as the 2 before it. Not that many of the cars had lost the handle since that last pit stop.
No, they several of them had improved considerably, Mike Joy. That other one was definitely a needed caution because their green flag pit stops were coming up very shortly, but that's not the case this time. They haven't run that long. However, I'm sure that we'll see a number of the cars coming in to make pit stops as they get slowed down.
211 of 420 laps complete here in the Busch 420. Just at the halfway point is Darrell Waltrip, Harry Gant, Bobby Allison, and Jeff Bodine. The front 4 all come on to pit road. Pit road's where the action is. Let's go to Ned.
Bobby Allison was just about to go a lap down as the caution car was coming off of the 4th turn. He beat the caution car, but just as he went out of the pits, the hood came up on the Gatorade Chevrolet, and so he's going into turn 3 over there looking out the side window. He'll have to come back into the pits.
Well, as the crew was still working on the car, and they were trying to pin the hood as Bobby came off of pit road. He still had a couple of mechanics clinging onto the fender trying to pin the hood. Obviously, they didn't get it. and he'll have to come on to pit road as he comes around.
And I'll tell you, that hood has been deformed also, Mike, as it went up and curled itself around the windshield and across the top of the car. It'll be interesting to see if they will be able to get the thing fastened down. He's caught up to the field now. He did not come in that last time around. He'll be coming in this time, I'm sure, but he wanted to catch up to the field so they'd have more time to work on the car. Meanwhile, Darrell Waltrip did take on 4 tires on his car. Jeff Bodine has been back in and changed the left side on the Performance Connection Pontiac. He changed right sides the other time around. Harry Gant took on all 4 tires also, and so he's right back on the bumper of Darrell Waltrip.
This will be a brief caution. We'll visit for a minute with a sponsor of the Busch 420, Michael Palmer, the brand manager of Busch Beer for Anheuser-Busch. When you folks got into Winston Cup racing, you sponsored the Junior Johnson car with Cale Yarborough as driver, and now you've shifted your focus. You have, of course, the Busch pole position and a couple of Busch races around the circuit. And you've redirected your approach to NASCAR racing, but it appears that the results have paid off for you.
Yes, we certainly have redirected our efforts. We thought it was more important to sponsor the sport overall instead of just one individual competitor. Not only do we think it makes the sport more competitive and more interesting, but it also helps Busch Beer. And we believe that our sponsorship gives us the opportunity to help our distributors around the country, including the one right here, A&C Distributing, sell Busch Beer.
Well, there's not a driver in the pits that doesn't want a piece of that Busch pole position money and a shot at the Busch Clash. That's been a tremendous promotion.
It certainly has been. We're very pleased with it, and the results have been tremendous, both for them and for the development of the Busch Clash, which has gotten bigger and bigger each year.
Mike, we'll talk to you a bit in a minute once the field settles down as we're set to go back to green.
Darrell Waltrip takes the green and shuffles off into the number 1 corner. Harry Gant is right behind him, and he's trying to hang in there and get his lap back again, Dave Despain.
Waltrip got about 4 car lengths on him as they hit the green, and now Harry starts to gobble that back up as they go to turn 3. Meanwhile, Bobby Allison's got a lot of catching up to do. He got caught way back in traffic.
Well, they did get the hood back down on that car. It's really mangled, but they did get it fastened back down. They had to use some shock cord to do it.
Well, he's way back about the middle of the field. He's got about 15 or 16 cars to work his way through to catch back up to Darrell Waltrip and hopefully put himself back on the lead lap. As they head back into turn number 3, Darrell's in front, still on a lap all by himself. Gant rides in the 2nd spot. He's 1 car length back. Bill Elliott should be the 3rd place car. 4th would be Ricky Rudd. In 5th position should be Jody Ridley. Riding 7th is Tim Richmond. 8th is Terry Labonte. And riding in 9th right now is Jeff Bodine as the field begins to string out all around the racetrack. Waltrip still in front. Gant trying to overhaul him over in turn number 2 as they work down the back chute. And Waltrip again is just as strong after that pit stop as he was a moment ago.
With 218 laps of the Busch 420 complete from Nashville International Raceway, this is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
Online and on the air, MRN is live from the track on MRN.com and the MRN app. Check out all MRN race broadcasts, pole qualifying and practices, plus exclusive motorsports programming live on your computer or mobile device. Or go to MRN.com to find your local radio station's online stream. Don't miss a second of NASCAR racing action. Listen live online at MRN.com, the MRN app, or your local station.
Should be about 119 laps left, 199 laps left in the Busch 420 here at Nashville, Tennessee. Waltrip still the leader, a lap down. The rest of the field right now trying to chase him down. Gant rides in the 2nd spot. In 3rd position is Bill Elliott. 4th is Ricky Rudd. 5th is Tim Richmond. 6th is Terry Labonte. 7th is Bodine. 8th right now is Buddy Baker. Riding 9th is Bobby Allison, and 10th is Richard Petty. Then 2 laps off the pace in 11th and 12th position is Dale Earnhardt in the Wrangler car of Bud Moore and Jody Ridley.
We're visiting with Michael Palmer, the brand manager for Busch Beer, and looking at the running in this Busch 420. Although Darrell Waltrip has a lap on the field, Harry Gant's right with him. The racing from 3rd and 4th spot on back, though, is simply tremendous. And I noticed when Waltrip got a lap on the field, nobody headed for the gate.
Not at all. I'm sure they're all enjoying a cold glass of natural, smooth-tasting Busch Beer.
The preceding has been a paid political endorsement. But seriously, it's really good to see a company like Anheuser-Busch is involved in as many sports as they are, really take to Winston Cup racing in the way that you folks have.
Well, we think that Winston Cup racing is the kind of people that we like to be involved with, and they're the kind of people who buy our product. They buy Winston cigarettes and Busch Beer, and we're very happy that they do.
On one of our broadcasts several years ago, a Busch executive stated that he used to take his own, or he does take his own pull by walking through the grandstand and looking at the beer cans. Do you kind of do some informal sampling like that and see what the folks are drinking?
Certainly we do. We walk up and down just to look around and see what's being consumed out there. It gives us some indication of what's going on in the stands when we sponsor an event.
Well, you've got a smile on, so the results of that must be pretty satisfying.
Very much so. We're very pleased with this event and all of the Winston Cup series that we're involved in. And we appreciate all of your support, too.
Well, we'll round up a round for Morgan Shepherd, the Busch pole position winner for the Busch 420 here at Nashville. But we talked to Ricky Rudd. He was one of a group of cars that were 10 cars within a tenth of a second in qualifying. And out of that whole group, he was the only driver that went out to try and re-qualify this afternoon. And I think you'll find his comments on why he went back out interesting.
Well, we knew we would be slower today because of the qualifying during the daytime. It's worth at least 0.3 of a second. Just the heat of the day slows it down. But really, we want to get our name in that Busch Clash second round deal. It wouldn't hurt us at all. Maybe we can get lucky if we don't happen to get a pole, which I feel like the car has been running well enough that we will get a pole before the year's out. But it's nice to have maybe that little extra insurance, your name in that hat in case you don't make it.
Well, on race night or race day, that all thoughts are on the race, but you can see that Busch pole and Busch Clash certainly occupies a lot of thinking in everybody's mind coming up to race day.
It certainly does, and by adding the second round qualifying pole award and providing those second round drivers an opportunity to get into Busch Clash has made it even more exciting than it has been in the past.
Well, it's a great program, and we're happy that it's been as productive for Anheuser-Busch as it has been for Winston Cup Racing.
Well, thank you very much, and we agree.
Michael Palmer, the race sponsor with Anheuser-Busch, enjoying this running of the Busch 420, and the action has heated up back for a couple of spots of the cars a lap down.
Well, the battle is for fourth position right now. Ricky Rudd trying to pull away from Terry Labonte and Jeff Bodine, who have been trying to reel him in back there. As they work out of turn number 4, there's been a real scramble. Then a little further back in the pack, Tim Richmond's trying to get around Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt is a lap down, but
Buddy
Richmond's
Baker
trying to catch up also.
Buddy Baker has slowed dramatically on the backstretch, Barney. He's headed for pit road.
Here is Baker on pit road, and let's see if he has a problem that's going to put him out for the night, or maybe he's cut a tire. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Well, this is definitely an unscheduled pit stop for Buddy Baker, Barney. As he comes down pit road, he's slowing, but no, he just waves to his crew as he goes on by and pulls her on down into the garage area.
You got to give Baker an awful lot of credit. He made a good run here tonight. As we pointed out earlier when we came on the air, it has been 3 years since Buddy has run a short track here at Nashville, Tennessee, although he did win here once in Harry Hyde's car. Had some good finishes when he drove for Bud Moore, but it's been a long time since he's been here, but he's right up in the thick of things. A lot of credit to Buddy Baker, and he is tickled to death to be back running every weekend. We may have some comments from him on that.
Barney, we'll take our wireless microphone down and see if we can catch Buddy as he gets out of his car.
And find out what has put Baker out for the evening here at Nashville. Waltrip's still the leader. He's on a lead lap all by himself. Much the same strategy and everything else going his way as it did back in May when he won here. Gant right now has dropped back a little bit. He is in the second spot. He is a lap down. As we pointed out, he's lost off of Waltrip now some 8 or 10 car lengths.
You know, the car on the charge, Barney, is a driver that's been having a tremendous middle portion of this season, and that's Bill Elliott, the runner-up at Charlotte, the runner-up just 1 week ago in the Firecracker 400. He's in third spot here, and he looks like he may be closing a bit on Harry Gant.
Let's go to the pits and Ned Jarrett.
Well, Buddy Baker has parked the car number 28. Buddy, what went wrong?
I really don't know. I think we've busted ahead. The water run out under the left rear wheel. It's been skipping for about 150 laps or 130 laps, and we're just trying to make it to the end. Run super good right at first. I was real proud of the way the car was working. And it got a little bit of a mist, and finally, I guess the whole top of the head come out, and it just started throwing so much water I couldn't drive it, so I brought it in.
Buddy, how's the track out there? Is it getting as slick as it normally does?
Well, it's slick, but the cars are running pretty good right now, especially that number 11. I don't really think it's that slick out there. I think it's just somebody hit on the right setup and is showing up.
Well, we're sorry to see you out of it.
Buddy Baker out for the night here at Nashville, Tennessee, but he put on a pretty good run there in the early going, and I think Baker is going to be a driver to watch when we hit some of the short tracks. He certainly won on the super speedways, but he's developed into one of the better short track drivers.
Back in March, Barney, NASCAR legalized the use of aluminum cylinder heads, and talked to Waddell Wilson before the race tonight. This is the third time this year they have tried the aluminum heads. They don't develop quite as much power yet as the design of the cast iron cylinder heads, but they're a little less expensive in that they can be repaired if they do break. And that's why many of the teams have been working with them, trying to get them to work, because if you break a cast iron cylinder head, you have to junk it, and that has become quite an expense for the teams running these Chevrolet engines. So they've been working on it. Junior Johnson's engine department, the Gatorade team, and also Chevrolet's engine department also. And looks like they still have a ways to go with it, at least as far as the Baker car is concerned tonight. Here's an unscheduled stop for Kyle Petty on pit road, coming in his STP Uno Pontiac. Now, they drove the Haas-Ellington car at Daytona. That's the Haas-Ellington Buick. This is the Petty Pontiac, the car that Kyle has been driving for most of the season. Mike Beam and the crew having a look at the left side, but they're not jacking it up. Instead, looking in the window, talking with Kyle. Fill the car off with gas, going to try to send it back out onto the speedway.
Kyle Petty will go back into the action, and we'll take you back through the field a bit. Waltrip is the leader. Gant rides second. Good run for Bill Elliott. She pointed out a moment ago, he's gaining just a little bit each time around, but it's taking him a long time to catch up to the front of the pack, but he's slowly working his way up there. He's in third spot. Fourth is Ricky Rudd. Fifth is Terry Labonte. Sixth is Bodine. Riding seventh is Tim Richmond. Eighth would be Bobby Allison. In ninth position is Richard Petty. And those cars from second through ninth spot are a full lap off the pace. Then back in 10th position, it is Dale Earnhardt. He's 2 laps down. He's followed by Jody Ridley in 11th. The 12th place right now, 13th, make that 13th belongs to Dave Marcus. In 14th position is Ron Bouchard. And in 15th spot is young Mark Martin.
Kyle Petty has taken his STP Uno Pontiac to the garage area, so it'll be a short evening for Kyle. Jeff Bodine and Terry Labonte, one of the best battles on the racetrack. Those two cars running nose to tail for the 5th position. Tim Richmond not quite within striking distance. Bodine has a look on the inside as they head for Dave Despain.
This is the kind of meat and potatoes action that dirt track fans love every Saturday night around the country. Bodine working on Labonte, and they've been at it for about 20 laps now. Labonte trying the inside, Bodine the outside as they hit 3 and 4.
Bodine is really beginning to develop in quite a young race driver in Winston Cup competition. As we said earlier in the evening, we were talking with him at Daytona last week. He is a determined driver. Right now he goes underneath Terry Labonte trying to take a position away.
That's where Bodine's been doing most of his work here tonight. That's where he got on the inside of Richmond and made that bump and shuffle pass earlier. Labonte's not giving him a thing as he stomps the throttle on the outside.
Two of the newcomers on Winston Cup competition going at it hot and heavy, and the fans are watching this one. They are still exactly a dead heat as they cross the start-finish line and haul it back into turn 1.
Very slowly, Bodine able to edge the hood out in front of Labonte's car. Now, Dale Earnhardt is in the middle of that pack, and he could be a factor. He's going to watch as Labonte dives in between them at Bodine with the spot.
Earnhardt's another lap down from that battle as Jeff Bodine now has Terry Labonte. That's for the 5th spot. Let's go to Ned.
Kyle Petty has just crawled out of the Uno STP Pontiac. What happened, Kyle?
Well, I guess the ratchet went out in the gear. You get it going out in the corner and let off of it, and the car just got plumb sideways, and it kept getting worse and worse, and I was having to use the brakes to keep the car straight. I finally just about ran out of brakes, so it was just in the way of everybody else. And
Joe Fisher, the news, right? It's hard enough to keep them straight on this racetrack without a problem with that sorting.
That's for sure.
Okay, Kyle Petty out of it here tonight.
Well, the brakes in the rear end, certainly, Barney, two components of the car that'll take an awful lot of abuse on a short track like this.
So Kyle Petty has joined the retirees of Morgan Shepherd, who went out a little bit earlier, and Kyle is on pit road along with Buddy Baker, or in the garage, as we should say, here at Nashville.
A couple of other stories we can bring you up to date on. Mark Martin's towing rig involved in an incident on the way to Daytona that made a lot of the papers. The front end of the truck was bashed in when the driver hit a slow-moving tractor-trailer truck. Fortunately, no injuries. The truck had to be towed 200 miles to get to Daytona. They have leased a tow rig from the Junior Johnson team in order to make this race and a couple of more while their truck is being repaired, so it has not caused them to miss a race on the Winston Cup circuit. We talked with Bud Moore down in the garage area. In the last couple of races here on Motor Racing Network, we've been kind of taking the Ford people to task. Last November, they promised some new equipment, engine blocks and cylinder heads for the Ford teams that were just about out of those commodities, but they've been kind of slow in coming. But they sent out a news release this week, and I had a chance to talk to Bud and ask him if some of those engine blocks had finally come through.
Yes, we got in 5 new cylinder blocks this past week, and we're looking forward to having new cylinder heads by the 1st of August, and a lot more parts and pieces they are making. And it took time for them to get all their act together up there to get stuff made, so I feel confident now that the parts will start rolling in pretty soon, and we'll have plenty of any kind of parts that we need.
Well, it's our understanding that Ford dismantled that last 351 V8 engine production line in Australia, where they had to make those engine blocks, so that this is the last of them. I asked him how many engines, or how many blocks they made, and what he expects the duration of that supply to last.
Well, I think they made somewhere between 1,000 cylinder blocks, so by this being a racing cylinder block, that should last a good while. I know when we had these blocks made before, there was only 600 made, and they lasted about 4 years, so I feel like what they have made now, and time everybody gets how many blocks they need all over the United States. You know, you say, well, 1,000 cylinder blocks, time it goes all over the United States and all the Ford dealers, and everybody gets 1 or 2. There ain't going to be too many, but still, I think there'll be an ample supply of blocks and all to carry us for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yep. Well, hopefully that's good news for the fans of the Wood Brothers and Bud Moore, Bill Elliott, Jody Ridley, the other Ford teams that run the Winston Cup circuit. They can start building up a supply of those engines instead of having to worry about being down to the last 2 or 3.
It won't be too long down the road till they'll be at Bristol, Tennessee, and that is the only night race they have over there. That'll be coming up in August, and we'll talk about that before the evening is over. Darrell Waltrip having everything his way here, much the same as he did in May when he came up here, and incidentally, that was the last time that he has been in victory lane. The team has had more than their share of problems, along with quite a few of the Winston Cup teams since that time. Trying to turn it around, Waltrip still feels that Junior Johnson and the Mountain Dew crew can win the Winston Cup Driving Championship for a second time in a row in his career with that team. And last year they were, a little over 300 points behind at one time. I think they're 180-some, 170-some right now. So they're in a little better shape right now than they were at one point last year.
Well, Bobby Allison has eclipsed both early point leader Terry Labonte and Waltrip, who ran 1-2 for many weeks. Allison, the leader, has 35 points on Terry Labonte, and Darrell Waltrip is 186 points out of the Winston Cup lead, so he cannot take over the point lead, of course, or second spot tonight, but could narrow that gap considerably.
Well, a win would put him a little bit closer to the front, and if you're wondering why I'm stuttering and can't tell you what all these points are, it's dark in this booth here at Nashville, and without some lights and my glasses too, I have trouble seeing, that's for sure.
Well, I think Waltrip has everybody in the dark tonight. They certainly have the field covered. They have lapped the field and have now opened up an additional straightaway on second place Harry Gant. Let's go a little further back in the point standings. There's some good stories there, and probably the best one to come along in a long time is at fourth position. Buddy Arrington of Martinsville, Virginia, has finished every Winston Cup race this year. He's only got 3 finishes in the top 10, and he says that luck has a lot to do with it. For example, at Atlanta in March, or rather at Richmond in February, the race was shortened by rain. If it had been restarted, they would have started without Arrington. His car was parked on the backstretch with a dead battery and no clutch, and he says there have been a number of lucky incidents like that that have kept him finishing every single race and fourth in the point standings. Dale Earnhardt, the 1980 champion, is in the 5th spot. Harry Gant, who has never won the Winston Cup and just finally picked up his first victory on the Winston Cup Trail in April at Martinsville, Gant is 6th. Benny Parsons, who tonight broke the second longest string in NASCAR racing for consecutive races. He had run over 300 races consecutively. Tonight, Parsons, without a ride for the Busch 420 for the first time in 10 seasons. He is 7th in the point parade, will drop from that spot this evening. 8th is Dave Marcus. 9th is Morgan Shepherd. 10th, last year's Rookie of the Year, Ron Bouchard. Richard Petty, trying to overcome with what has not been one of his best seasons, is 11th. Ahead of Jody Ridley, Ricky Rudd, who had a pretty disastrous start to the season, but they've had some good finishes lately. They're 13th. Jimmy Means is 14th, the independent driver from Huntsville, Alabama. Neil Bonnet, Kyle Petty, rookie Mark Martin, Joe Ruttman, Bill Elliott, and J.D. McDuffie are the top 20 in the Winston Cup standings as we come here to Nashville.
So many of the young teams are beginning to surface in the top 10 in the Winston Cup points chase. That team of Ricky Rudd, the Piedmont Airlines car, they've done a complete turnaround, and right now he has had some good, strong finishes lately and hoped to even finish in the top 3 here tonight, maybe even win the race, because Richard Childress and the crew, I think their whole attitude has changed on that team.
They made some personnel changes after about 10 races this season, and things have really picked up, and they have the solid backing of the Piedmont Airline folks. They're Piedmont executives at just about every race, and some of them, Bill Howard, the president in particular, become really race fans and try not to miss a race, either listening to it on the radio or being there in person. We mentioned at the top of the broadcast there were 10 cars that qualified within a tenth of a second, and Ricky Rudd is the first time he has missed qualifying on the first day. He was the fastest second-day qualifier, as you heard him tell Michael Palmer earlier in the broadcast. Picked up that wild card spot, or a chance at it, in the Busch pole runs. But I asked him, a tenth of a second out of 23 seconds around a racetrack, or 22, is not all that much. Can you really see where you lose as minute a fraction as a tenth of a second on this racetrack?
Well, you can pretty much tell where your weak spot is, and what you'll do, you have a weak spot, and ours happened to be right in the middle of the corner, and we knew we're off a little bit. It's hard to tell exactly how much time you're losing, but it feels like it's actually more time than what you actually lose. So it is pretty easy to go find out where you're losing that tenth of a second. The hard part is to correct the car so it corrects the problem on the racetrack without having it lose somewhere else.
Well, it's been the hard part for just about everybody but Darrell Waltrip tonight. He's lapped the field. Harry Gant rides second. Bill Elliott, having a real good run here, is third. 274 laps completed at Nashville.
Buddy Arrington slowing down, heading down into the number 1 turn. He may have some problems. Let's follow him around as he works to turn 2.
Barney, it came awfully high off of the 4th turn, and it came off at a very slow pace, and then got it down to the inside of the track. He's in front of Dave Despain.
Arrington is coasting on the backstretch, appears to be without power, so it looks like that string of successive finishes for Buddy Arrington may be all over here tonight.
At 278 laps complete, we're under the fourth caution of the evening. Let's go to Dave Despain at turn 2.
In turn 2, Darrell Sage had it come loose underneath him. The 17-year-old Murfreesboro, Tennessee driver got sideways all by himself on the racetrack. There wasn't anybody within a country mile of him. He slid down and just tapped the inside Armco, but now he's looking back up the racetrack and no opportunity to get turned around and back underway. The car is under power. He has pulled it back up onto the apron and is now just awaiting an opportunity of a break in traffic to get back onto the course.
A quick look at the upcoming races on the Winston Cup schedule. Next Sunday is an off weekend for Winston Cup racing. Motor Racing Network will be on the air, though, at Michigan International Speedway. We'll bring you the action of the kart Indy cars as they run up there in the Norton, Michigan 500 over many of these MRN stations. That's next Sunday, July 18th. 2 weeks from tomorrow, July 25th, the Mountain Dew 500 at Pocono International Raceway, the unique 2.5-mile tri-oval. That's the only way to describe that track, is unique. And then in 3 weeks, they'll go to Talladega, Alabama, the fastest speedway on earth, to see if they can get the 14th different winner there in the Talladega 500. Back to Michigan, August 22nd for the Champion Sparkplug 400. And then to Bristol, Tennessee, Saturday night, August 28th for the running of the Busch 500 there. And track promoter Gary Baker will be by in a little bit to tell us about some new improvements, $500,000 worth at the Bristol, Tennessee Raceway, some of which will be directly for the fans' benefit, and he'll be by to speak with us a bit later about that. Let's quickly go to Ned Jarrett for a pit report.
Everybody is on pit road, or practically everybody, Mike Joy. In fact, the pace car is going into turn 3, and I don't think he's got a car behind him. Yeah, there's a few of them back there, but most of them are taking advantage of this caution period for a 4-tire change. Waltrip, the leader, already has 4 new tires on his car and is back out there. Mark Martin, Ron Bichard, Bill Elliott, here goes Bobby Allison, P.K. Ulrich, Jody Ridley, everybody taking advantage of this caution period to get that fresh, cool rubber and, of course, the tank of Union 76 gasoline.
Well, getting off this pit road is kind of like going down I-65 south out of Nashville where they merge for the repaving construction. It's just kind of like stuffing 10 pounds into a 2-pound funnel all at once. It's a narrow pit road, and really, you have to admire the skill of these Winston Cup drivers in squeezing into some pretty tight spots here. So we're under caution, the 4th one of the evening for Darrell Sage's spin at turn number 2.
Field is being given the indication here at Nashville, Tennessee. They'll take green next time by after a caution flag has just been displayed to the field a moment ago when young Darrell Sage spun out over in turn number 2. The field getting bunched up for a double file restart with Darrell Waltrip still on the point and still on that lead lap all by himself.
Ned Jarrett's making his way to Gary Nelson in the Dyguard Gatorade fit. They had Bobby Allison in just a minute ago with the hood up. Let's see if we can get Ned's report before we go to green flag here.
Well, we are in the pits. Gary, you've had the hood up on the car a couple of times. What's the problem?
Well, Ned, we're losing oil pressure. I don't know if we have a leak or whether it's just something internal in the engine. We added oil. We'll see what it does.
Okay, they had the hood up, they had oil burning. They're just hoping that it'll hang together, that the leak won't get too bad for them. The green's coming out.
Bobby Allison is right back in the thick of things as they drop the green, and Waltrip takes them back into the number 1 corner. And Harry Gant is up there again, so is Ricky Rudd as they try to get their lap back as they head for turn 2.
Pretty characteristic pattern here. Waltrip getting a good restart. Gant going up the outside. Bill Elliott is now right on Gant's tail. Elliott's been putting on a strong run. He's 3rd, and Jeff Bodine is 4th.
Ricky Rudd found a little opening coming off that 4th corner and got the jump on Harry Gant and scooted up into the 2nd spot. Now Gant finds himself back in 3rd position, and moving right up there is Bill Elliott as the front 5 cars try to chase Waltrip down and get back in the lead lap. They're back in 2.
Bobby Allison taps the rear deck of Dale Earnhardt, who is a couple of laps down. Allison was 6th on the restart, so he actually picked up 3 positions despite having to go to the pits for that addition of oil.
Strong battle for the 2nd spot. Gant trying to take it away from Ricky Rudd. They come door to door off the 4th corner, and at the line it's Gant by half a car length. Rudd isn't coming out of the throttle. He's still there.
Rudd looking as strong as he has all night. Elliott comes up inside him. They are fender to fender. Gant, good dig off the corner. Couple of car lengths on the Rudd and Elliott battle for 3rd.
Bill Elliott hangs tough on the inside in that milling tool Ford, and he's got the advantage of the Piedmont Airlines Pontiac, 3rd and 4th spots. Transfer as they come out of turn number 4. Elliott 3rd. Rudd will be the 4th place car as they go back to turn 1.
Jody Ridley's right there in the thick of that. He's your 5th place car, and he's not 2 feet off the rear deck of Ricky Rudd. And now Jeff Bodine ducks into line, and you've got a good 4-car battle right there.
They scramble all the way back through 10th position. It's Waltrip on the lead lap by himself trying to pull away from the field, and he's beginning to do it a little bit as he gets away from Harry Gant by 10 or 12 car lengths. Bill Elliott trying to hang on to the rear deck lid of Harry Gant and take over the 2nd spot. Still Ricky Rudd is riding 4th. In 5th position right now is Bodine. He's beginning to move up. And riding back in 6th is Bobby Allison. Go ahead, Ned.
And Barney Hall, we were talking earlier on the broadcast here about the sensational season that Buddy Arrington has been having with his Chrysler and Dodge products, but this is the first race that he's been able to talk to a radio announcer after the race started, but he's here with us now. Buddy, what happened?
Well, Ned, it feels kind of funny being in here since it's first time this year, but we've had trouble ever since I got here. We messed up an engine early this morning, had to change, and then we put one in. We thought everything's okay, and I don't know, it broke oil pump belt, or about the last 50 laps, it lost power and wasn't running right, and I told Joey that the engine was trying to tighten up, it had broken valve springs or something, and finally it just lost all the oil pressure.
Well, you knew that it was a matter of time until you'd have to fall out of one race or the other, even though you hated to see it.
Oh, yeah, I knew that sooner or later it would happen. There ain't no way you can just keep going and going and not have trouble. It's lucky that I've lasted 16 races, and look like to me, when I do have trouble, it always happens at Nashville. I have more bad luck here than anywhere I go.
Well, we're sorry to see you out of it. Appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
One of the most likable drivers on the tour and one of the hardest working, Buddy Arrington from Martinsville, Virginia, out of it for the night here at Nashville, but he's had a whale of a season thus far and still got about a half a season to go. And let's hope he can have the consistent finishes the rest of the year that he's had in the beginning. Waltrip is in front. He still has the field a lap down. Riding along in second spot right now is Harry Gant, and he's beginning to reel in Waltrip a little bit.
Good battle for the 4th spot. It's Jeff Bodine against Ricky Rudd, and it seems that wherever there's been a battle on the racetrack tonight, Bodine has been right in the thick of it. Those two Pontiac Grand Prix come off of turn 4 side by side. Rudd in the high groove, Bodine down at the bottom of the racetrack, and they continue to battle at turn 1.
Bodine's got the spot. Rudd wants it on the outside. We just saw a minor accident over here, Barney Hall. The crew of Bill Elliott had run back to their transporter with the little carts that they used to transport tires, and they obviously needed some more tires for Elliott's car for this finish, and they were hustling trying to get the little cart back across the ditch here and upset the cart, and tires went everywhere. They've gathered them back up now, but they were obviously hurrying, so Elliott is apparently going through tires at a little more of a rate than he might have expected. Meanwhile, that good battle continuing now. Bodine has broken free of Ricky Rudd, but the number 90 machine of Jody Ridley is alongside Rudd now as they continue to battle into turn 3.
Some of those lap cars back there really having a heads-up battle and doing a little fender knocking right now. Bobby Allison, who's still a lap down, is right in the thick of that. So is Jody Ridley and Dale Earnhardt. And they figure if we can't catch Waltrip, we'll do some hard racing and have a little fun here anyway. And that's what they've been doing. They're back in front of Dave Despain.
Allison's car looking strong. If that oil pressure problem is hampering him, it certainly isn't showing. He's put Terry Labonte behind him. And Harry Gant's continuing to close in on Waltrip, the leader.
Harry Gant has tried all night long to unlap himself and get around Darrell Waltrip, and he has really given him a workout, but thus far, Waltrip's been able to keep him back there. There was quite a story on Darrell Waltrip about this race, as he told us earlier a couple of years ago, or last year also. He really wore himself out when he won here, had a foot that was blistered, was completely dehydrated, said he was hallucinating, and he said he's on a chemical diet now. Some foods that he felt like he had been told if he could eat, that he could build his resistance up to the heat here. He talked about that.
Well, there's some things you can do, you know. There are certain vitamins and minerals, and there's some fruit that you can eat that, like bananas, are high in potassium, vitamin C, things of this nature. And last year down here, I just really got in terrible shape. I had cramps, and I was dehydrated, and I was hallucinating even. I really didn't know what was going on. And one of the football players told me, you ought to take certain vitamins that'll compensate for some of that. So that's what we've been doing, and I do feel better. I've been in, like at Daytona, I didn't get to run very long, but the heat wasn't bothering me nearly as bad, and tomorrow night, I guess, will be the true test. Saturday night will, to see if it's working or not. But I do believe I feel better.
Well, it's working for him right now, and the reason Waltrip got off on that kick was one of the NFL football players put him onto that.
Oakland, yeah. Dave Casper plays for Oakland. He was here last year. He was honorary starter, and he was in Victory Circle with me. And I was cramped up. I was bowed up. I just couldn't even. My legs was pulling up behind my back, and I was just turned into a knot. And he got me on my back and got my feet up in the air and kind of got me straightened out a little bit. And then he was talking to Jackie and I and said, there were certain things that you could do. And so we're going to see if it works or not.
Well, it used to be that you just got in a race car and went out there and tried to outrun everybody. Now you have to figure out every angle you can to give yourself that much more advantage.
Ned, were there ever things that you'd want to try to eat or not try to eat before a race? Or I won't say try to drink or not try to drink, but did you ever have to watch your diet carefully for racing?
Before I answer that, Bobby Allison has slowed the Gatorade Chevrolet number 88. Several cars are passing him. He's slow going in to turn through. We'll watch him and see if he comes into the pit area. That oil pressure problem might be hampering him a little heavier. He stays out on the racetrack, but he's definitely off the pace. We'll keep our eye on that. But, well, there was a lot of consideration to things back then, Mike. Yes, as far as what you might eat before a race, certainly you didn't want to eat pork and things that might be upsetting to your stomach or any fried foods or greasy or anything of that nature. But I don't think that we paid as much attention to vitamins and minerals and all the things that maybe your body does need that they do nowadays. And I would say that it was at least as strenuous on the drivers then as it is today. Now, perhaps there was not quite as much heat generated inside the cars then as there is now, because the cars were required to run higher off the ground, which let a lot of the heat dissipate underneath the car, plus the fact that the engines were only being turned about 6,500 maximum back then. And here, I'm sure that the top running cars out there tonight are turning close to 8,000 RPMs, and that generates a lot of heat, and the cars being lowered to the ground now, that really gets up in the driver compartment.
Bobby Allison posted his 2 laps down. He'll lose another one. He's on pit road. Let's go back to Ned.
Well, they're going to take a look and see if it is that oil pressure problem, and I'm afraid that it might be too much of a problem. They are taking a look at it and talking to Bobby to see exactly what the situation is. Now he's rolling down pit road, or he started to go, and then they stopped. So they're continuing to have problems there, so it's put Bobby Allison out of contention here tonight.
We are under caution here at Nashville Speedway, and this will be the 5th one of the evening. It came out a moment ago when Jeff Bodine spun over in turn number 2. Let's go over to Dave Despain.
Could have been a scary moment for some of the front runners. Jeff Bodine was running 4th and spun directly in front of Terry Labonte, Tim Richmond, and Richard Petty, who were running 5th, 6th, and 7th. Everybody got by. Bodine ended up facing the wrong way on the backstretch. Sat there a moment, waited for a hole in traffic, did a parking lot spin around, shoved it in low gear and just mashed it and turned a bunch of smoke off the rear tires as he spun it around and got back underway without losing a lap.
It does not appear as if he lost a lap in the process, does it, Dave?
Doesn't appear that way from here. I think he definitely got back underway before the leaders came around. The caution car is now grouping the field back up in turn 2, but it looks like Bodine stayed on the same lap.
Bobby Allison, to fill you in, is still on pit road, and they're still attending to the rear end. They were looking at the rear axle and continue to work on Bobby's car. So pit stops the order of the day under this, the 5th caution of the evening. We'll go back to green in just a moment. Bobby Allison's car is still on pit road.
Mike Joy, this time it appears to be a broken axle. They pulled an axle out of it, and they have a new one in it now, putting the hub back on it, hoping to get back out very quickly, but he has lost a lot of time here. So Bobby Allison's problem continues. The green flag waves.
We are back under green at Nashville. Waltrip again takes that green and sets sail on the rest of the field. He has everybody a lap down. Gann is right there, same place he's been for about the last 250 laps, trying to unlap himself. Bill Elliott is up there again. As they scoot up through traffic, so is Tim Richmond. Single file, they head over to turn number 3. Nobody's been able to do anything with Darrell Waltrip all evening. A change of rubber around on most of the cars again, and Waltrip again shows his superiority as they put him back under green.
Gann stays within a couple of car lengths as they work into turn 2, but once again the pattern is familiar. Waltrip's going where he wants to go, and I don't think Harry's got the stuff to get around him.
So it's Harry Gann in 2nd. Bill Elliott rides in the 3rd spot. Tim Richmond in 4th. Ricky Rudd in 5th. Terry Labonte in 6th. Jeff Bodine in 7th. Richard Petty posted back in the 8th spot along with Dale Earnhardt. Those cars are 2 laps down. Jody Ridley is 3 laps back. Mark Martin, Ron Bouchard, Lake Speed, and Dave Marcus are 4 laps off the pace. Gary Baker, the promoter of Nashville Raceway, steps into our booth as they drop Bobby Allison's car off the jacks, and again they can't get that car rolling down pit road. But Gary, I don't see an empty seat in the place. It looks like you've got a full house tonight.
Mike, it is looking that way. It was sort of a late coming crowd because of the weather we've been fighting here a little bit in Nashville, but these people are determined to watch Winston Cup racing, and rain or no rain in the atmosphere, they're going to come.
Well, a little bit of the practice was rained out. I'm surprised that we don't have a whole pile of country music stars here tonight. It seems that every time we run a race here, you've got a crowd of them.
Mike, it would surprise you, but if I went down through the entire list of the people who had contacted us and wanted to come but could not do it, I think it would take us about 10 minutes. First on the list, obviously, is T.G. Shepard. He was out in California doing some filming of some TV specials,
Loretta Lynn contacted us. Tammy Wynette, she's suddenly become a real avid racing fan. Conway Twitty, Mel Tillis. It could go down through the list. All of them that contacted us wanted to come, but you know how it is. This is sort of their haymaking season.
Well, certainly they're all on the road and all out on tour. But I understand you've got some new excitement at Bristol International Raceway when we go there at the end of August for the Busch 500.
Mike, indeed, that is the case. I guess we're about ready to put this one to bed. So our attention here at Bristol and Nashville Raceways, of course, does turn to the Busch 500 coming up August 28th at Bristol. In trying to get ready for that event, after the situation we had there last year, we sort of took a fresh look and said it's time to do some pretty substantial expansion, and that's exactly what we've set out to do. It's a very substantial expansion program that we hope to have totally implemented prior to the running of the Busch 500.
I understand you spent about $500,000 up there. You've doubled the width of pit road, and I always thought that we had the best seat in the house with the radio booth, but I guess you're going to sell some seats that are better than the ones where we sit.
I think so, Mike. You might want to get up on the top row of the new grandstand towers that we plan to have installed. They have told us that there will be no problem in having 2 new twin tower grandstands constructed prior to the August 28th event. That's what we're endeavoring to do. It will add about 3,000 seats. These should be premier seats, high rise, if you can believe it, 57 rows high, towering over the racetrack.
Well, so many racetracks, when they add seats, they're out toward the end of the grandstand or perhaps in the infield. If you're going to Bristol August 28th, there'll be 3,000 brand new seats, and they'll be the best seats in the house, and I'll bet the phone will be ringing off the wall Monday morning.
Mike, I think that's probably the case. The rate things have been going up there. We're not exactly sure what's going on, but we just can't quite keep up with the demand for tickets. And this sounds crazy, but the record crowd that we had last year, where literally we did have to turn people away from the Winston Cup event, and maybe that sort of told some people get there early. And here we are about 6 to 7 weeks away from that event, but our girls are just doing an unbelievable number of tickets out that door every day. I think we're running something like 3 to 4 times ahead of this point last year, as hard as that is to believe.
Well, what's going on up there is some of the best short track racing on the Winston Cup circuit. It's good to see that if you have as big a crowd as you did, it won't be a turnaway crowd this time.
That's it. We don't like that attitude of turning them away. If they want to see their Winston Cup guys out there on the track, we want to be able to allow them to do exactly that. We feel like with these improvements, the doubled restroom facilities, the increased seating, the widened pit road for the competitors, I'll admit that pit road has been a little bit on the dangerous side. This widened pit road, 2 new concrete retaining walls, 52-foot wide pit road. Somebody said probably you can expect to see Dale Earnhardt sidetracking it down through there and seeing if it's a quicker way around that track.
Who knows? Gary, congratulations on a good crowd tonight, and we've only done one race at Bristol, and already it's one of our favorite stops on the circuit. We'll look forward to going back there August 28th.
Mike, we appreciate that. We're always glad to have you, Barney, and the whole MRN crew. You're the greatest, and we appreciate you all being here.
Thank you. Gary Baker, promoter of the raceway.
Some good scrambling has been going on in the field after we've gone back to green here at Nashville, Tennessee in the Busch 420, and it's been back in that 5th spot for 5th position. And right now, Waltrip is still the leader. Riding second is Gant. The 3rd place car is Bill Elliott. 4th is Tim Richmond. And a moment ago, Terry Labonte, Jeff Bodine, and Ricky Rudd were really knocking hammer and tong on each other for that 5th spot. And as they come off the corner this time, it will be Terry Labonte up in 5th. But Dave Despain, they have really been getting at it.
They were bumping around pretty good. All of those guys have kind of got a history of that here this evening, especially Bodine, who's been in and out of those kind of frays all night. He finally had to let Labonte go, but he still got his hands full with Ricky Rudd as they hit turn 3.
Well, the latest report on Bobby Allison's car, they have taken it to the garage area, and we have been informed that they possibly will change that axle and try to get Bobby back into the race to get in as many laps as he can to pick up as many Winston Cup points as possible. Let's go to Ned Jarrett.
Barney, they did indeed change the axle out on pit road, but apparently the one that they put back in it was not the right length or something. There's a left axle and a right axle, and apparently they got the wrong, they didn't have the right one here, and they put it back in there, and it simply wouldn't pull. So they have taken it to the garage area where they have more room to work on it, and where they also have the equipment to fix it with, so that we should see him coming back out 4-2 home.
That's just how important the Winston Cup Championship is, the national driving title, to Bobby Allison. We talked with him about that yesterday. It's the one thing that has eluded Allison in a long career, and he really wants it.
I really do. And, you know, I think that from my own standpoint, I've run hard every year. Mostly I say I try to run hard in every race. And seems to just add up to the idea that should also, but only at the end of the season, it should also mean the championship. That's a race that's very important to all of us.
I asked Bobby if the ingredients are there in the Gatorade team for him to win it this year.
But we just haven't got it done, or I just haven't got it done up to this point. But I'm with a group of people that very much on the same wavelength with the way we feel about racing and about the whole picture, how to go about it, and the priorities. And I think maybe I do have a chance at it this year. That could change. I hope not, and I hope that everybody keeps on working as hard as they've been working so far, and that we have the good luck, the good fortune, and that the talent of these guys, Robert Yates and his engine crew, Gary Nelson and all his chassis guys, keeps on coming through for me.
88 laps to go, make that 87 as Darrell Waltrip's Mountain Dew Buick crosses the start-finish stripe. Harry Gant about a half a straightaway plus 1 lap behind him. Bill Elliott is right there. Elliott riding along in the 3rd spot. We'll take you back through the field when we come back. From Nashville International Raceway, this is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
Need to find your local MRN radio station? Taking a trip and want to listen to NASCAR races? Go to MRN.com. Click on stations to find all MRN's local radio stations. Plan a trip and map out MRN stations along your route. MRN on your local stations. Tune in.
Looking for all the latest statistics on NASCAR drivers, races, and tracks? Go to MRN.com's series pages to find driver averages, who finishes best or worst at each track, and drivers' average finishes. Comprehensive NASCAR driver stats. Online at MRN.com.
At Nashville International Raceway, Darrell Waltrip on the lead lap all by himself right now, continues to pace the field in the Busch 420. Harry Gant rides in 2nd spot, and he is beginning to lose a little ground. And Ned, it appears that something is wrong on that machine.
Yes, Barney, it doesn't have the speed that it had a little bit earlier. Bill Elliott continues to inch up on him just a little bit, and it appears as if he's not going down the straightaway quite as strong as he was a little bit earlier. The car looks like it's handling okay in the turns, but it looks like the engine might have slowed a little bit for him.
Whatever the problem is, Gant has fallen far off the pace. A moment ago, he was able to keep Darrell in check and ride right along about a car length back, but now he's lost maybe 3 to 5 seconds, somewhere in that range, as Bobby Allison comes back out of the garage and goes onto the racetrack, and the fans here at Nashville stand up and give him a big cheer.
Good race for the 3rd spot on the backstretch. Bill Elliott's number 9 Melling Tool Ford with Tim Richmond and Terry Labonte. All those cars are posted 1 lap down along with Jeff Bodine and Ricky Rudd. And Richmond was right underneath Elliott a lap ago. As Elliott runs the high groove, here comes Richmond right on the bottom of the racetrack in that Stacy Buick, and they come down the straightaway. It looks kind of like Dover, Barney, in miniature, where one car will go way to the top of the racetrack and one will run the bottom, and they'll come out of the corner just right together again.
Well, Morgan Shepherd commented earlier today how hard it was for the drivers themselves to keep up with what position they were in and who was on the lead lap and who was 2 laps down because of the different lines the drivers take around this racetrack. He said a lot of times you'll pass somebody and won't even see them out against the wall or down at the apron of the track. But right now, still a pretty good scramble going on between these 3 youngsters, Bill Elliott, Tim Richmond, and Terry Labonte. They're over in front of Dave Despain.
And they're catching Harry Gant at a very quick pace. They're within about 5 or 6 car lengths of Harry now, as the number 33 Skull Bandit definitely isn't handling quite the way it was early in the race, and that's going to be a 4-car battle real shortly.
Harry Gant with some kind of problem on his car, the Skull Bandit, and right now Bill Elliott begins to reel him in, and that will be a battle for the number 2 spot as the traffic begins to build up around here and the laps wind down on the Busch 420 as they head up the backstretch.
They've got Ruttman sandwiched between the Gant and Elliott machines. Now Elliott goes to the top and takes Ruttman out of the picture, and here comes Tim Richmond and Terry Labonte hot on his heels.
They'll work by the Joe Ruttman Pet Dairy Buick and then head for Harry Gant as they get to turn number 1. Gant's Buick. Elliott dumps it in hard into the corner, skates up high on the racetrack. Richmond takes the same line, and Labonte is right locked on his bumper.
Meanwhile, Harry Gant is continuing to run the same line through turn 2. That's where he was making the run at Darrell Waltrip all the time between those yellow flags earlier on. But now he doesn't have that same line working as well. He's running in the same place on the racetrack, but he's just not running through there as quick as he was.
Bill Elliott trying to take over the number 2 spot. What a year this youngster has had with the sponsorship of the Melling Tool Company out of Michigan. He has really come to the forefront. He and his brother Ernie are unreal in the ability that they've had to put their own engines together and make that operation work. He's had, 2 second-place finishes already this year?
Charlotte, and 2 big races, Charlotte and Daytona.
And he's in a good position to pick up another second or even a win here if Waltrip has trouble tonight.
It's entirely possible. Let's take a look back through the field. Waltrip's the leader. He has a lap and almost a straightaway on Harry Gant. Gant's second position is in jeopardy. 4 car lengths make that 3 in turn 3 to Bill Elliott. Tim Richmond is right there in 4th spot. In fact, he's underneath Elliott, challenging for 3rd. They come off the corner. He doesn't get it. In 4th is the Terry Labonte automobile. 5th is Ricky Rudd. 6th is Jeff Bodine, and the handling has gone away on that car. It's very, very loose. They're all 1 lap down. 2 laps off the pace, Richard Petty is in the 8th spot. In 9th is Dale Earnhardt. 3 laps back is Jody Ridley in 10th. 4 laps down, 11th is Mark Martin. 12th is Ron Bouchard. 13th is Dave Marcus. 14th is Lake Speed, and 15th is Joe Ruttman. 6 or more laps off the pace, Jimmy Means, Darrell Sage, James Hilton, Tommy Gale, D.K. Ulrich. Bobby Allison is back in the race, but he's 37 laps down. Out of the race, if you joined us late, Buddy Arrington, Kyle Petty, the outside pole sitter, Buddy Baker, J.D. McDuffie, the pole sitter, Morgan Shepherd, Lenny Pond, and Slick Johnson.
Nashville, Tennessee, the laps are winding down to the Busch 420 here on a Saturday night, and it's been a good one. Darrell Waltrip and his Mountain Dew team have completely dominated this race. Once they got in the lead, nobody's been able to knock him off that front spot. He has a lap on the field. Right now, he's a lap and what? About almost a lap and a half, really, on everybody else. Harry Gant is in jeopardy of losing that second spot. Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte, Tim Richmond, and Richard Petty trying to chase him down. And we had a report a moment ago from Jay Wells, who is in radio contact with Harry Gant and works for the Skoll people, that the tires may have been heating up on that, and I think Ned Jarrett has made his way over to Travis Carter, maybe to get further word on that. If he's
yes, I did check with Travis Carter, and that's exactly what he said, that the tires had heated up on him, which slowed him down, but now he's moved away from Bill Elliott a little bit. Elliott had moved right up on his back bumper, but now he has been able to pull away a little bit, and I suspect that Elliott is suffering from the same situation. On his hard run to catch Gant, he was abusing those tires as he battles now with Terry Labonte, but that really abuses the tires, gets them heated up, and they just won't adhere to the pavement as well.
Terry Labonte going after that 3rd position right now on Bill Elliott as they go door to door, and Richard Petty's going after 5th spot. They head over to Dave Despain.
Well, they in fact went 3 abreast as James Hilton was on the low side of the racetrack. Labonte went right up the middle and takes 3rd spot away from Bill Elliott, and Petty works inside Tim Richmond, who appears to have that same problem. His car very loose, probably hot tires, and he's in danger of losing a spot to Petty.
Well, we're wondering if they will make another appearance on pit road, Ned. They can go the distance with no problem fuel-wise unless they really had to stop.
Yes, they can, Barney. That fuel would not be a problem because the last time they stopped, there were not enough laps left that it would burn up a full tank of fuel. But tires, normally here at Nashville, with the abuse that they give them, they run a softer compound here, of course, than they do on the bigger racetracks, and that does heat the tires up more. And with the speed that they go into these turns, the tires take a beating here. And so it's not that they wear out completely, but that buildup of the heat. And when the tires get hot, they pick up the other rubber on the track, and it really just makes them not stick to the track too well. So some of them might make pit stops just to change tires, but some of them might just go ahead and try to ride it out because they know that they're going to lose at least 1 lap if they do that.
Well, that's why you hear a lot of drivers say a set of tires just gave up, and you explain that well, that they do not wear out. They just can get them heated up to the point that they won't do the job on the racetrack for a moment. You have to kind of back off the pace and let them cool down and then make a run at somebody again. And that's apparently what's happened with several of the front runners in their effort to try and chase Waltrip down and get back on the lead lap.
360 laps complete. They're just 60 laps from the finish here at Nashville. Make that lap 361 as Waltrip continues to tick them off at a rather torrid pace. He lapped the field early before the halfway mark. In fact, about lap 160, he had a lap on the field. Only 3 drivers have led this race. Morgan Shepherd, the pole sitter, led the first 20 laps. Waltrip took over, and except for 1 lap that Bill Elliott led under the caution, it has been all Darrell Waltrip and the Dew Crew here tonight.
Well, this track really belongs to him. So does Bristol and the Mountain Dew crew of Junior Johnson. And Martinsville Speedway, when they come to the short tracks, the teams just automatically figure that they will be the team to beat. And again, they have proven that indeed they are here at Nashville, Tennessee on a Saturday night of the Busch 420. The laps began to wind down as Waltrip leads them around there. As Ned Jarrett pointed out, it's highly unlikely we'll see any more pit stops unless somebody just has a major problem and has to make an appearance on pit road. So the drivers now are beginning to get themselves set up for the final run here to improve their position as much as they can.
He each one of those cars that are a lap down, Barney, probably has a good chance to trade position, and there are 6 of those machines. So the only exception might be the Jeff Bodine car. It's gotten very loose, and every time Jeffrey tries to get off the corner hard, the back end of the car just wants to come right around on him. So he has faded a bit, but still 1 lap down. The rest of that pack, though, stays pretty tightly bunched in front of Dave Despain.
Harry Gant, the second-place car. Checked out the Harry Gant machine in second, being pursued now by Terry Labonte. Labonte is well around Bill Elliott, but even though Waltrip's a lap and a quarter ahead of everybody, you've got the next 6 automobiles running within the length of the straightaway. They're all a little loose with the hot tires, so it's a pretty interesting matchup among those 6 cars.
Stack them 3 wide for that second spot as they head off into turn number 1. Terry Labonte gets the inside groove and goes after the second spot on Gant.
First time Gant's been challenged all night. Here comes Labonte up the inside. He's got a fender alongside on the low line as they hit turn 3.
Terry Labonte trying to take over the second spot. He wants to pad some more points on his Winston Cup deal and try and maybe win the championship. He led the mid-season segment, collected $25,000. Good battle for that second spot. He may get it in turn 2.
Labonte's got it. Can he keep it? He slips in front of Harry Gant and grabs the spot, opens a car length as Gant wiggles a little bit. And now Bill Elliott has used that opportunity to close within about 3 or 4 car lengths. Good Saturday night short tracking.
Behind Darrell Waltrip, the action has been fantastic. Labonte now the second place car. Gant is 3rd. Elliott is 4th. Ricky Rudd is in the 5th spot. Mark down Tim Richmond in 6th position. Jeff Bodine 7th. All 1 lap back. And boy, there's a banging going on in turn 2.
Richard Petty got tagged on the inside by the number 86 car of Darrell Sage. The youngster, 17 years old, has been in the thick of the action here tonight. He got into the side of Petty. Richard kept it clean, but they're right in front of Ricky Rudd, so that could have been a problem for him.
Petty is 2 laps down. He's the 8th place car, racing along with Ron Bouchard, who is 4 laps back.
Nashville, Tennessee, as the laps are winding down to the Busch 420. Waltrip still on a lead lap all by himself. Terry Labonte has moved up into the number 2 spot, getting around Harry Gant a moment ago. As some shakeups began to take place here toward the end of the race, as everybody is putting on a charge right now, trying to get as close to the front as they possibly can.
Tough break for Bill Elliott, coming off a fine second-place finish by just a car length and a half to Bobby Allison. He's coasted into the garage, and Ned Jarrett is there.
Well, he's crawled out of that meddling tool Ford. Bill, what went wrong?
Evidently, I dropped the valve, Ned. I don't know. It just started skipping and it started smoking.
You were making perhaps your best short track run ever in NASCAR Winston Cup competition.
Well, that last set of tires, the car got awfully loose, but there were a couple of sets before it really got to running good.
Well, we're sorry to see you out of it. You put on a good show out there.
There's another race next time.
Bill Elliott, who talks slow but runs fast when he gets on a racetrack, whether it be a short one or a big one, and he'll be at Pocono in a couple of weeks up there, and he almost won that race up there last time we were there. He had a good run going and had some problems late in the race. So the laps wind down here at Nashville, Tennessee in the Busch 420. Can anybody do anything with Darrell Waltrip? They haven't been able to do it either in May when we were here, and they haven't been able to do it tonight.
Trouble on the Mark Martin car. He came by the front stretch very slowly, cut to the inside, and now heads over for Dave Despain in the back stretch.
He's coasting down on the safety apron. He's out of everybody's way. Martin looks like he'll be able to make it back to the pits. The car is running, but he's at very, very low speed as he heads for pit road.
That was the 12th place car. Let's take you back through the field with 50 laps to go here at Nashville. Waltrip, of course, is the leader. They understand that the throttle linkages slipped on the 02 car as Martin heads for pit road. Waltrip the leader by a lap. Terry Labonte in the 2nd position. Harry Gant rides along 3rd. Bill Elliott was 4th at the time he coasted into the garage area, so Tim Richmond will take over that 4th spot. 5th will be Ricky Rudd, and 6th will be Jeff Bodine. 7th is Richard Petty, 2 laps back. 8th is Dale Earnhardt, 3 laps off the pace. 9th is Jody Ridley, who is 4 laps down. 10th was Mark Martin, 5 laps off the pace. That will move Ron Bouchard up to 10th. Dave Marcus to 11th. Lake Speed to 12th. 13th is Joe Ruttman, 14th is Jimmy Means, 15th is Darrell Sage, 16th is James Hilton, and 17th, the last car running at the moment, is Tommy Gale.
So that's the way the field is running here at Nashville, Tennessee in the Busch 420. Bobby Allison, if you joined our broadcast earlier and heard us say that he was in the garage area with an axle problem, they did replace that. In fact, they put 2 in the car before they got him back onto the racetrack, and he lost, 37 laps, I think he said. But he is back out there trying to accumulate as many Winston Cup points as he possibly can and still running at the end of the race here tonight.
Well, he's picked up at least one position now with Bill Elliott dropping out of the race. And as Mark Martin continues to have problems, if they can't get that repaired.
Mike, the problem on that car, the throttle linkage has broken on it. Herb Knabb has gone to the garage area to try to get one. Mark has the the window screen unfastened. They're putting the hood back down on it now. Now whether they're going to give it up or whether they're going to send him back out. Right now, it looks like they're going to push him to the garage area and hopefully try to repair it and get him back out.
Well, that'll be costly for Martin. He's the champion spark plug rookie point leader, but Jeff Bodine has been eating into that lead all season, just the way another fellow Northerner, Ron Bouchard, did to Morgan Shepherd's point lead last year, and Bouchard became the Rookie of the Year.
Well, Darrell Waltrip, who has dominated the field again here at Nashville, and he didn't even expect to do it a second time himself.
Oh, you know, it's one of those things that you hope for, and something that you really enjoy when it's happening, but the sad part is that you got to come back here and do it again, and the competition is just too great, and there are too many good cars in the field to expect to have another night like that, but we had one, and it was fun anyway.
Waltrip truthfully didn't think he was going to lead the field like he has tonight, but I think Junior Johnson and the crew, the kind of homework they do on that race car, when you put them on a short track, look out.
When we were here in May, Harry Gant led a lap. Otherwise, it was all Waltrip. Tonight, Morgan Shepherd led the first 20 laps. Bill Elliott led one lap under the caution. Other than that, it has been all Waltrip.
Well, he's not giving up any ground. He is still setting a blistering pace, hasn't backed out of the throttle. The car's done exactly what he needed it to do all night. Dave Despain, if he needed to run high, got caught in traffic, he can put it where he wanted to.
He's been able to save the tires, too. That's a big key because he's been able to pick his line and hasn't had to battle with anybody. Waltrip's not having the least little bit of a handling problem. Everybody back there running at lesser speed is slipping and sliding all over the racetrack. So that's a key to how well they put that car together tonight.
Terry Labonte can do nothing but just ride right now and watch Waltrip wind around this racetrack. He got up there to him a couple of times. So did Harry Gant. So did a half a dozen other drivers. But nobody's been able to knock him out of the lead.
Bobby Allison is racing hard against Jeff Bodine, and they're right in front of the leader. Allison is 37 laps off the pace, but he is giving no quarter to Bodine, who is about to go 2 laps down if Waltrip can do anything with him. Now, last time Waltrip went by these two, they were running for second and third spot, and Waltrip had a tough time. He's underneath Bodine in the backstretch.
He's got about half of one of those positions right now as he goes side by side with a very loose Jeff Bodine machine. Waltrip wisely making this pass on the inside. Last time he went around on the outside. I wouldn't want to be on the outside of Jeff's car tonight.
Darrell isn't going to take any chances with the Mountain Dew cars. He keeps it down to the inside groove, and Bobby Allison pulls away a little bit more. Darrell will pick his place to pass if he sees an opening that looks like he can get it through there. He'll probably make the move. Otherwise, he'll ride just exactly where he is.
That's kind of like one of the canons of short track racing. When you're passing or lapping a car, one of New England's top short track strategy drivers, Peter Fiandaca from Fitchburg, Mass., told me once, he says, I do all my passing on the inside because they can't stuff you into that outside wall when you're underneath them.
It's the best philosophy I've heard in racing in a long, long time. With Darrell Waltrip out front, Terry Labonte riding second here at Nashville, Tennessee. And if I could see that scoreboard, I'd tell you how many laps to go.
390 down, 30 to go. Darrell Waltrip has just put another lap on Bobby Allison. Had a tough time doing it. Allison, despite being 37 laps down, is a never-say-die kind of driver, and he's hanging right there with the leader. Waltrip on a lap by himself. He's put Bodine a lap down, so there now are 4 cars that are 1 lap off the pace as Mark Martin comes back onto the speedway from the garage area, having repaired that throttle linkage problem.
At Nashville, Tennessee, the Busch 420 will be history here very shortly. Darrell Waltrip continues to just take the same line as he has when there's no traffic in front of him. He'll put that car right to the bottom of the racetrack. I don't think he's buried more than a couple of hundredths a second all night long unless he run up on a pack of traffic and had to come out of the throttle for a moment. The car has worked and performed for him. A driver couldn't ask for more than that machine has done for him here tonight.
Well, the Gillette Atcher lap leader standings, Waltrip leading that category going into tonight's race by 300 laps over Bobby Allison. And if he continues on and wins this race, he will lead 399 laps tonight, and that'll give him almost a 700-point bulge on Allison, Dale Earnhardt, Neil Bonnet, and Benny Parsons in those standings. Next week is an off weekend for Winston Cup racing. As we told you earlier, Motor Racing Network will go to Michigan for the CART Norton, Michigan 500. The Indianapolis cars, Gordy Johncock having one of his best seasons ever. For the STP Patrick team, the victory at Indianapolis, again up at Milwaukee. And rookie driver Bobby Rahal winning last week on the airport circuit at Cleveland, Ohio. Should be an interesting race over many of these MRN stations. 2 weeks from today, the Mountain Dew 500 at Pocono International Raceway, that unique tri-oval 2.5-mile racetrack in Pennsylvania. And in 3 weeks, the fastest speedway on earth. And we'll see if Jim Freeman will get to thump the drum, or about a 14th different winner in that Talladega 500. No driver has ever won it twice, finishes like that one last year involving Ron Bouchard, Terry Labonte, and Darrell Waltrip are the reason why. Here in Nashville, 400 laps are in the books. There's just 20 to go for Darrell Waltrip, the Dew Crew, Junior Johnson's machine, after a spate of bad luck over the past 5 weeks. The last time they were in victory lane, as Marty told you earlier, was right here back in May. They have certainly found the handle on this racetrack. Practiced only until noon this afternoon. Put the car up on blocks when the rains came early this afternoon. Waited for race time and then strutted their stuff after Morgan Shepherd led the first 20 laps. Bill Elliott led 1 lap under caution. It has been all Waltrip. Terry Labonte taking over second spot from Harry Gant a few laps ago, and Ricky Rudd now closing in on the Gant machine. Gant riding in third. Rudd is now posted unofficially in the 4th position, and Barney, it looks like he's gaining some ground on Gant.
Ricky Rudd has had a good run here tonight, and Richard Childress and the team put in an awful lot of practice along with Ricky Rudd here to get that car dialed in, and it has paid off for them. They have lost only a lap here, as has most of the rest of the field, in fact all the rest of the field for that matter, but they've been right up in the thick of things all the way from 2nd, 3rd, 4th position. They've never been that far back all night long for the Piedmont Airlines team of Ricky Rudd and Richard Childress.
Just kidding here in the booth, hoping somebody would make a race for it, and pulling for James Hilton. And just about that time, this big plume of smoke went up and fire from underneath the hood of car number 48, the James Hilton automobile, the Palatine Auto Parts Pontiac out of Inman, South Carolina. The crew has got that fire out, and Hilton was apparently out of the Busch 420.
You know, Hilton is an amazing race driver in his own right, and I guess he goes back a long time. He used to be one of the chief mechanics, I think, on Ned Jarrett's car a long time ago. Am I right on that, Ned?
That's exactly right, Barney. He started driving, well, he drove a race or two when he was my chief mechanic. We'd take 2 cars when we were going what was called the Northern Tour back then, and so he ran, started a couple of races there, and I think that sort of gave him the bug, and so he got on with the racing then after leaving our team as a crew chief.
You get to looking back through the record books, and it's amazing how many races that Hilton has run over the years since the early 60s. He's run about as many races as anybody except Richard Petty.
Probably so, and he, of course, is one of those winners of the Talladega 500 that has had so many dark horse winners in its 13-year history, coming up August 1st.
Darrell Waltrip's bound to be looking at the scoreboard over in the south end of the speedway as he whirls around the Busch 420 here, trying to make it 2 in a row, having won here in May and led every lap except one. He's pretty well had the field covered all night tonight. As he zips around here, Terry Labonte hangs on to second spot. He is a lap down as the laps wind out here at Nashville, Tennessee.
Reporting the scoreboard is a lap off, so Waltrip is that much closer to the checkered flag here at Nashville International Raceway. And this race, for Darrell, almost a carbon copy of the one here in May. He led all but 1 lap, just disappeared from the field, lapped the field, and then settled into a comfortable pace and cruised to victory in the Junior Johnson Mountain Dew Buick. And perhaps they have turned their season around. In the past weeks, things have not gone their way. They've lost a few engines and suffered mechanical misfortune and have not finished a lot of races lately. Waltrip has dropped to 3rd in the Winston Cup point standings, trying to defend his title, and looks to be headed back toward the top with a victory here tonight.
Well, there have been a lot of, I think, write-ups in different newspapers around the country that there's a lot of dissension in that team between Darrell and Junior Johnson. And we talked to both of them here at Nashville, Tennessee, and Junior said he wondered where all that came from, because as far as he was concerned, Darrell was as good a driver as he's ever had in the car, and there was no problem. He didn't feel like there was any problem at all, and he still thinks they'll win the Winston Cup Championship. So all they needed to do was get some breaks. They had some mechanical problems, and I think they're getting the team turned around. They certainly have here tonight.
Still have 14 races left to do it in. The Goodies Headache Award, voted by the press to the driver who experiences the biggest headache in the preparation or running of the Busch 420, has been voted to the likable Dawsonville, Georgia driver Bill Elliott, whose Melling Tool car was in contention here, running in the 4th spot when it apparently lost an engine, and Bill coasted to the garage area out of the race. So Bill Elliott takes home $300 from Goodies Headache Powders and Goodies Pain Relief Tablets for the biggest headache tonight. And he'll also get a sample of Goodies to help cure that headache. But I think, Marty, the smile is still on his face from Daytona last week. That was a terrific finish with he and Bobby Allison.
I think everybody in the garage, every place we go lately, feels like this young driver is going to win a race before too long. And his team certainly feels that way, and most of the drivers feel like that if he can just get one tiny break somewhere down the road, he'll be in victory lane.
2 laps to go for Darrell Waltrip. Let's follow him around as he goes to turn 2 and Dave Despain.
He's working in about as much traffic as he's seen in a long time now, coming up the inside of Dave Marcus with Dale Earnhardt still ahead of him. Waltrip's being very picky about his places to pass now. He's got all the time in the world.
Waltrip drops down to the inside of Dave Marcus as he comes out of that fourth corner. Harold Kinder sticks the finger up and gives him that white flag indicating 1 lap to go as he zips off into turn number 1.
He may not have expected to do this tonight, Barney, but he has certainly done it with alacrity. Darrell Waltrip has just walked all over this field tonight. He's going to put a move on Marcus down the backstretch and turn toward that checkered flag.
Darrell Waltrip picks his way under Dave Marcus. Here comes Bobby Allison, and those 3 cars will come to the finish stripe under a blanket. Marcus edges off and beats Waltrip to the flag. It'll be Darrell Waltrip winning here in the Busch 420, beating Terry Labonte and Harry Gant. Darrell Waltrip has won the Busch 420 here. He's done it by a lap over Harry Gant, Terry Labonte, finishing in second spot, and Labonte may just get the point lead back from Bobby Allison. Labonte is second. Harry Gant will finish third. Ricky Rudd is fourth. In the fifth spot will be Tim Richmond. All of those cars are 1 lap down. 2 laps off the pace. Jeff Bodine finishes in sixth. Richard Petty is seventh. Eighth will go to Dale Earnhardt this evening, 3 laps off the pace. In the ninth spot will be Jody Ridley. 10th will be Ron Bouchard. Bouchard was 5 laps off the pace. 11th to Dave Marcus, just 6 laps down. 12th is J.D. McDuffie, and 13th is Joe Ruttman. 14th to Jimmy Means. In the 15th spot to Mark Martin. 16th will be Tommy Gale. 17th to Bobby Allison, 37 laps back but still charging. And 18th was James Hilton. Picking up the 19th position tonight will be the Bill Elliott machine. 20th will be D.K. Ulrich. 21st to Buddy Arrington. 22nd is Kyle Petty, and 23rd, Buddy Baker. 24th will be Darrell Sage. 25th, the pole sitter Morgan Shepherd. In the 26th spot would be Lenny Pond. 27th to Lake Speed. And the 28th place car would be Slick Johnson. We'll go to Victory Lane after this from Nashville International Raceway. This is MRN, the Motor Racing Network.
The Daytona 500. It's the race that defines legends, and as the world's only motorsports stadium, Daytona International Speedway is the place that redefines what a race can be. You can experience it all and witness the next career-defining NASCAR moment at the Great American Race. But hurry, the 2016 race sold out, so don't miss out in 2017. The Daytona 500, Sunday, February 26th. Guarantee your seats at 1-800-PIT-SHOP or Daytona500.com.
Back at Nashville International Raceway, where Darrell Waltrip has just worn out the field here in the Busch 420. Let's go to Ned Jarrett in Victory Lane.
Well, Darrell Waltrip has not brought the Mountain Dew Buick into Victory Lane, but Junior Johnson is here. Junior, you really had the car dialed in once again here at Nashville.
Well, Ned, it's, this is a big boost to us. We've had a lot of problems in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and, little bitty things. It's just been putting us out in the engine department, and this is what it takes, I think, to get us back on track.
Junior, we were talking during the broadcast. As we look back over the years, your cars have always, of course, they perform well on every racetrack, but particularly on the short tracks. A lot of that has to go back to your driving days, I feel.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. Drivers like Darrell and some of them boys that's run a lot of these short track races kind of fits our qualifications for a place like this, and Martinsville, and a lot of these places. So I got to, contribute a whole lot of that to Darrell.
Well, you're being modest there, to say the least, because you know what it takes to run these kind of tracks, and it definitely is different from setting a car up to run a big racetrack.
Well, it is. You go to Daytona and places like that, you're looking for horsepower, and most of the time when you go after horsepower, you're lucky if you get by without having some sort of engine problem. But we've been running awful good at Talladega, and we really, Daytona's kind of bugging us a little bit right now. Next time we go back there, we're going to try to defeat that place if we can.
Well, he says that with a grin on his face, but with a lot of truth in his voice. They really want to do it, and I'm sure that they will be doing it. I assume that they stopped the car at the scales, and to gas it up, Mike Joy, is the reason that they haven't brought it yet to Victory Lane.
It's on its way to you now, Ned. You remember the last time we were here in May, it took Darrell almost as much time to find Victory Lane as it did take him to lap the field, because all of the gate areas coming up to Victory Lane were blocked. So now you should have a good view of the Dew Crew Buick coming up to Victory Lane right toward you.
He is coming right directly at our position here, and his wife Stevie is here waiting on him to pull it into Victory Lane. And I'll tell you, we were talking about the battle scars that we'd see on a lot of those race cars. This one doesn't have a lot of on it because he was able to go exactly where he wanted to during the evening, and he's coming over here to us right now. Darrell, congratulations on another super run here at Nashville.
Thank you, Ned. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Mountain Dew, and Junior and all the crew, and thank the good Lord for a safe race. And had no problems. Everything went very well.
Well, I just asked Junior Johnson, what is it? You folks seem to set that car up so well here. It just works just perfectly.
We got a good memory.
In other words, you set her up just like you had her back in May, huh?
We sure did, Ned. And the car just really performed so well. And, you know, Junior and the boys have really been working hard because we have had a little bit of bad luck here lately. And I know they were as tense about tonight as I was. And I held my breath all the latter laps of the race, saying, come on, baby, finish for me here in front of all these good old Nashville people, all my hometown folks.
There was one point in the race there. You lapped the field pretty easily there in the first 150 laps, and it looked like you were going to be able to pick your way through the traffic. But then Harry Gant came out running strong, perhaps made you run a little bit stronger than you wanted to at that point.
Well, he did for a few laps. Seemed like he could hang with me, and then he faded, as we'd go along. But I really didn't need that, but since he was already a lap down and we were able to outrun him, it made the race a little bit better for me because it kept me alert and going, and otherwise I might have got a little reckless. And when you got a big lead, sometimes that happens. I got to say hello to everybody back in Wilkesboro, Flossie and Julie and everybody listening back there too for Junior.
Darrell, it's quite a different scene here in Victor Lane for the Busch 420 this year than a year ago when you were here. You're in much better physical condition.
Well, we do have the car working better than we had it back then, and as you noted, we didn't have Bobby Allison hounding us all night long, so that helped too.
And the temperature wasn't quite as hot tonight.
It's not nearly as hot this year as it was last year, and I thank the good Lord for that because I never been so sick in my life, so it feels real good to get out of the race car and be able to walk and talk like a normal person.
Well, congratulations again. This was a turning point for you last year. Maybe it'll be again this year.
It will be, Ned. I pray that it will be, and I think it will.
Well, let's pull our MRN broadcast crew on the Peak Coolest Move of the Race Award. Let's start with Dave Despain.
Well, I figure it happened right over here in turn 2 from our perspective. Mike, Jeff Bodine running among the leaders at that point in the race. Spun, got going backwards on the racetrack, managed to get things gathered back up and whirled her right back around and didn't lose a lap, and that was the key to his top 10 finish here tonight. A nice piece of driving, an alert bit of thinking, and in my book, the cool move of the race.
Let's check in with Ned on pit road.
Mike, I'm so engrossed in the goings on here in Victor Lane that I didn't even hear your cue. What's going on here?
Well, we're voting on the Peak Award.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you where my vote's going. I didn't even hear where Dave Despain's went. I'm going to vote for the young driver, Darrell Sage, because I'll tell you, one time he was a sandwich going into the first turn with two of the front runners, one on one side and one on the other side, and by golly, he came out of that thing. That was a pretty cool move on a 17-year-old's part.
Barney?
I'm going to really put this thing in a kink. I'd have to go with Terry Labonte because he kind of cooled it back there. He realized he couldn't get around Harry Gant for the latter part of the race at the time, and then when he realized that Gant had a little trouble and the tires might have heated up on the car, he put a move on him and put himself up in second position and picked up some more Winston Cup points. I'd have to go with Terry.
I'd have to cast a vote for Ricky Rudd. He got himself through a couple of tough scrapes, a couple of situations where the cars were going three wide and managed to emerge unscathed, and I can't really see how. I think also Rudd made a cool move when he elected to requalify this afternoon to get his car a wild card possible vote for that Busch Clash wild card spot at the end of the year, and he picked up $500, although it meant he started one position further back in the field. Well, we pulled the rest of the MRN broadcast team and will award $250 from Peak Antifreeze and Coolant to Terry Labonte, who picked up some points in his chase toward his first possible Winston Cup championship. Bobby Allison displacing him as the point leader last week with that Firecracker 400 victory. We'll have to check with Dan Henley or Wes Beroth and see if indeed the point lead did swing back in favor of Labonte after this race. Let's go now to racing results from around the country and our STP scoreboard.
It's time now for the STP World Racing Scoreboard with racing results and news from America and around the world. Brought to you by STP Corporation. Around the track, around the world, depend on STP proven performance.
Let's go to Ken Martin in Virginia.
On Friday night, Wayne Patterson won for the fourth time this season at the Southside Speedway in late model stock car action. Roy Hendrick was second, followed by Todd Taylor and Roy Martin. Eastside Speedway action was postponed by rain. At the Log Cabin Raceway, they ran twin 25s for the late models, with Benny Davis winning both races. Tommy Bear and Phil Hall followed in the first 25-lapper. Hall moved up to second with Monk Tate third in the second feature. For the STP World Racing Scoreboard in Virginia, this is Ken Martin.
Last night here at Nashville, they ran for the Busch pole position, and also they ran the NASCAR Grand American scheduled feature events. And Dale Earnhardt picked up his first career Grand American win here at Nashville Raceway. But once again, it was Mike Alexander and Sterling Marlin that stole the show. On the drop of the green flag, the two Tennessee drivers broke away from the field and looked like they'd send the rest of the field home. But then on the 34th lap, it was almost an instant replay of what happened here several weeks ago. After hounding Marlin for the lead, Alexander saw a chance to take it away, moved to the inside, and the two cars crashed. Alexander was out of the event. The two drivers have been feuding ever since Mike Alexander returned to regular competition here this season after running a part of last year on the Winston Cup Trail. Finishing close behind Earnhardt at the finish was Jody Ridley and local favorite Tony Cunningham in his Camaro. Wayne Carden held off Marlin for the 5th spot to move within 10 points of him in the Winston Racing Series point standings. Earnhardt of Victory Lane said that those two local guys, Alexander and Marlin, were really showing the rest of us how to do it here tonight. They were both strong, and he said he had no chance of catching them, but sometimes experience prevails over youth, and those two drivers went home not with first and second place, but with their race cars just a little sorry and sullen looking. So Dale Earnhardt the winner over Jody Ridley here last night in the Grand American feature. Here at Nashville International Raceway, we're headed for the mountains here. Reggie Ruggiero, the winner last night at Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut, NASCAR Modified Winston Racing Series action. Kenny Bouchard and Brett Bodine stole the show. Now, they're the younger brothers of Ron Bouchard and Jeff Bodine, who competed here last night. But on a 20th lap restart, Gene Michaud drilled young Bodine into the fence. Bouchard lost the lead to Reggie Ruggiero, who went on to win it. In the Mario Fiore, Danny's Market Cavalier, Greg Sachs finished second. Bouchard hung on for third. Jerry Pearl was fourth. Ahead of Bernie Singer, Bob Pulvereri, Mike Whedon, and Jim Spencer. Randy LaJoy won the SK Modified feature. At Spencer Speedway, George Kent the winner over Jerry Cook, Maynard Troyer, and Dave Nichols. At New Egypt, in New Jersey, Jamie Tomeno, the NASCAR Winston Racing Series winner, and a brand new Maynard Troyer car. Let's go to Birmingham and John Ward.
Friday night at Birmingham International Raceway, Henry Brook tied an all-time track record by capturing his 5th straight Grand American feature. Dave Mader III took second, Alton Jones third, and Ronnie Sanders fourth. In the International Sedan feature, 18-year-old rookie Kenny Allison, Donnie Allison's son, won his first NASCAR feature race. This is John Ward for the World Racing Scoreboard.
Alan Johnson, the winner on the dirt at Utica Rome in upstate New York last night. A.J. Slideway is taking the win there. Down at Riverhead Raceway on Long Island, Freddie Harback in the Winston Racing Series over Wayne Anderson, Jim Tyler, Don Howe, and Dan Giovanelli. And our thanks to Paul Tremaine of Checkered Flag Announcer in Willimantic, Connecticut for those Northeast results. In the Winston Racing Series in the Southeast Division, Ronnie Sanders leads Jerry Lawley. In the Northeast, Richie Evans ahead of George Kent, Bob Pulvereri, Ray Miller, and Reggie Ruggiero. In the Central Division, Tom Hurst, the leader over Dick Schultz, and the Mid-Atlantic hotly contested battle between Sam Ard, leading Tommy Houston, and Jack Ingram. The Winston Cup cars are off next week, then they'll go to Pocono the end of the month for the Mountain Dew 500, and then Talladega August 1st. The ARCA Talladega Supercar Series is headed now for Nashville International Raceway right here on the 24th of July. Then they'll go to the action track at Terre Haute, Indiana, July 25th, and then to Talladega on the 31st for the ARCA 200 there. A special hold tonight to Bug Stevens, a 3-time champ up at Stafford Motor Speedway. He's down at Seekonk, Mass, listening on WSAR. Took a hard shot into the wall at Stafford a couple of weeks ago and spent a week on his back. He's recuperating. They say he's in the pits at Seekonk tonight on crutches. Want to wish him a speedy recovery and look forward to seeing him at Martinsville for the Cardinal 500, which will broadcast the end of October. Closing comments in a moment.
The STP World Racing Scoreboard was brought to you by STP Corporation. Around the track, around the world. Depend on STP proven performance.
Well, Barney Hall, at the start of this evening, everybody said, including most of the drivers in the pit area, that this would not be a Darrell Waltrip runaway, and we're all fooled again.
Well, the Junior Johnson team, as usual, kind of put together the type of race car and the handling capabilities that they have always done on short tracks over the last few years. Here, Nashville, Martinsville, Richmond, everywhere they go, they seem to be the team to beat. But the key, more so than winning this race and dominating it like they did, I think, was the fact that the team has turned around again. They went into a slump. As we commented when we first came on the air, there were several teams that were looking for a good finish here tonight. Bobby Allison really wanted one to kind of hang on to the Winston Cup points lead. He may still have done it, even though he finished pretty far back, but I don't think he did. So what he had hoped to accomplish here tonight didn't materialize, as they had some problems with the car. However, Terry Labonte and Jake Elder felt like they needed a good finish to get right back up in the thick of things, and they did it again. They finished second here, right behind. So
that's pretty
that
incredible.
Battle for the Winston Cup point championship is unreal.
Well, Labonte will take over the lead. Allison will hold on to second, and Waltrip will close in third. For Labonte, that is his 6th official Winston Cup finish this season. He also finished second in the Busch Clash and second in the Daytona 125-mile qualifier, so that's 8 runner-up finishes. I guess he's become the new Harry Gant.
Well, he certainly has. If he's had, I didn't realize he'd finished second that many times in that many events, so he has taken over Harry Gant's kind of place in the second-place finish department.
Well, it jumbles things up even further as we head for Pocono. Well, some of us will talk to most of you next Sunday from Michigan International Speedway. We'll bring you the IndyCar action of the CART Norton Michigan 500, and tune in for that one. It'll be a thriller. 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be at Pocono for the Mountain Dew 500, and then we'll go off to Talladega for the Talladega 500 at the fastest speedway on earth. Our thanks to Dave Despain, who covered the action on the backstretch, and two-time Winston Cup champion Ned Jarrett on pit road. For Butch Owens, our statistician, John McMullen, our director, Harry Howard.